Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Stan Fleming on behalf of the University Place City Council. I'd like to call this regular meeting of the University Place City Council for Monday, March 2nd, 2026 to order. If the clerk would please call the roll.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Figueroa.
Present.
Councilmember Boykin.
I'm here.
Councilmember Cunningham.
Here.
Councilmember Wood.
Present.
Councilmember Grassi.
Present.
Mayor Pro Tem McCluskey.
I'm here.
Mayor Fleming.
Here.
Mayor, you have a quorum.
Thank you, ma'am. If we could ask Councilmember Figueroa, if you'd please lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Thank you. At this time, I'd like to move to item number 4 on the agenda this evening. I'd like to call for a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll move to approve the agenda.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. It's been properly moved and seconded. Are there any objections to approve the agenda? Hearing none, the agenda is approved. Let's move to item number 5, presentations. Tonight we are really, how do we say this, excited as well as honored to celebrate the International Women's Day Proclamation. I'm going to call on Mayor Pro Tem McCluskey, if you would please lead us in the presentation, please. Thank you.
Angela's here.
And I think while you're getting set up there, we're
May I
going to
have Angela from
There you
SWAN
go.
come up to receive the proclamation for the International Women's Day right over here. And I would also like to ask Councilmember Grassi and Councilmember Cunningham to join me as well. And for the photographs, first we'll get the women, and then I would like to get the men, because we're a world of both sexes, and we need each other to manage and survive. And as in Hindu tradition, it takes both male and female to make a whole, like a yin and a yang. Okay. Well, International Women's Day is coming up pretty soon, and you are a businesswoman in good standing, and you know about credit and financing businesses. And back in the day, it was a lot harder for women to get credit on their own. They had to have either their dad sign off on it, or their husbands, or their brother. But a woman alone really couldn't get credit unless they created their own little credit agencies, which some of them did, to go around that. And then 1974-ish came along with the Equal Credit Act, which said that if you were discriminated against based upon your gender, then you would have the right for recourse in the judicial system. So that was one arm. And after that happened, 1972 was an evolution for the first International Women's Bank that was set in motion in 1974. And the openings of their doors, they had women circling the blocks to put money in their bank. And that was very strategic because it made women of our day, able to leverage your finances so that you can open the doors in University Place. So I want to thank you for us choosing town center in particular, for Swank. I think we're a swanky community anyway. So I think you dovetail and fit in really well with all your beautiful and unique clothes. So let's get to the proclamation after all of that. And I need my glasses. Take a moment here. These are new additions in the past less than a year. Oh, thank you. They're swank, aren't they? Okay, you knew that was coming, right? No. Whereas International Women's Day is a global celebration held each year on March 8th, honoring the social and economic, cultural, and civic achievements of women throughout history and across the world. Whereas this day also recognizes the ongoing work required to advance equity, expand opportunities, and remove barriers that women and girls continue to face in their daily lives, workplaces, communities, institutions, and whereas women of every background across generations, cultures, and identities have shaped our history with resilience, creativity, and leadership, contributing immeasurably to progress in science, education, the arts, public service, health, technology, and countless other fields. And whereas the spirit of International Day calls upon all people to champion dignity, respect, fairness, and full participation of women in all aspects of society. Whereas celebrating this day strengthens our commitment to fostering inclusive environments where every woman is empowered to pursue their or her aspirations. It is Women's Day, right? Express her voice and reach her fullest potential. Now, therefore, the City Council of the City of University Place do hereby proclaim March 8th, 2026 as International Women's Day and encourage all individuals, organizations, and communities to join in recognizing the achievements of women, honoring their contributions, and working together to advance equality for all. Proclaimed by the City Council of the City of University Place on March 2nd, 2026, signed by Mayor Stan Fleming. Angela, would you like to say a few words?
I could say we're just excited to be here in the city of UP. This is really a special place. I see the community. We've got a Girl Scout sitting out front right now selling cookies. She's going to be there on International Women's Day too. And just to see the excitement in her, and it's just a really good thing. So we're excited to be here. I love this community. It's really good. So thank you.
Cool. Girl Scout and leadership. They're synonymous. Melanie, Alicia. Okay, let me hide this guy. And at this time, I would like the other councilwomen to say a few things. So, Melanie.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Thank you, Angela, for being here this evening. And thank you to Council and Mayor Fleming for this proclamation. I'm so honored to be a woman serving in this community, but also on this council, and with leadership from our council and from our city staff that honor women in leadership so well. And our city that is led by so many women as well. It's such an honor to be an extension of you all. But I want to just take this opportunity to invite our whole community to our International Women's Day event happening at Swank Boutique this Sunday from 12 to 5, and so many female-owned businesses are going to be involved. We have Salted Rim and the Essential Pantry and Want a Cupcake, the Crystal, remind me of the Crystal business that's P&W Crystals, Permanent Jewelry, Pure Aesthetics, Northwest Medical Arts. These are all female-led businesses in our community that are coming together Sunday from 12 to 5. The main hub is going to be at Swank Boutique. We'll have giveaways all day, but then we encourage you to walk across the street and to visit these other businesses. They'll all have specials for women, and men can come as well, but we really hope that women in our community come and celebrate this day together. I'm so grateful for Angela for opening up her location and making it possible for so many women in our community to be celebrated together, to lift other women up. Women supporting women is what it's all about. I'm proud to be raising a daughter in this city that gets to look and see leadership in all forms, in our public safety department, on our council, in our business leadership, in our city, in the classrooms, everywhere. She is growing up in a community that not only is it valued at home, but she's seeing it modeled out in our community, and that is truly special, and it's an honor to raise her in the city. So thank you for the proclamation, and Councilmember Cunningham.
I want to echo everything that everyone else has said, of course. It's exciting. Yes, Girl Scouts is a big deal to us. I have no daughters, so I just love myself. And I'm grateful for boutiques like yours. And I just love the reflection of others. My big thing is that people can't be what they can't see. And it's important that we reflect what young girls downstairs as Girl Scouts can emulate. And it's important that all of us, we're not the majority, but hey, we have voices. And it's important. I really excited to get to know you. I love your style. I follow you now on social media, and it's just proud to be able to be part of a community like this and see a woman-owned business. It's important that young girls get to see that every single day, and that we reflect that on council to show that there's women that can be in politics and civic engagement, and they can look all different ways, and people want to see themselves in someone else. And I'm proud to stand alongside of all of these women and my fellow colleagues in the community. They're just doing great things like you. So thank you so much for all that you're doing, and just being proud of what you're doing and sharing it with all of us in our great city. So we're truly appreciated, and we can't wait to celebrate you with you on the 8th.
May I have my fellow council members and mayor come for the picture? And on the International Women's Day, their colors are purple for justice, white for purity, and green for compassion, and yellow flowers. So if you want to get your special woman some flowers on International Women's Day, the color is yellow. Do you want her on this side of me?
Let's stay with Frank.
No?
I just want to say thank you for all the comments that were made in celebration of the International Women's Day. It just reminds me of when I was a kid growing up. My mother, watching her go through the struggles that she had to face as a minority woman in the 40s and the 50s. And you picture, she was a general surgeon, but women weren't allowed to be doctors back then. So having to fight the discrimination as being a minority, fight the discrimination of being a woman, fight the discrimination of being a woman in a profession that was all men. This is really important and significant. So thank you all so much for that. All right, with that, let's go to item number 6, public comment. And now in the public comment portion of this agenda, this is really an opportunity for members of the public to provide comments to the City Council about any item that's not appearing on the agenda or in the consent agenda. So for those who are joining us online, the instructions on how to participate are shown on the screen above. Thank you. Okay. Seeing that there is no one online, we would like to take public comment from those who are joining us here in the council chamber. We have 2 people who have signed up. I will say from the outset, if I make a mistake on your name, please don't take it personal, but I'll give it my best shot, okay? So signed up first is we have Ellen Kojima. Okay, thank you. If you would come up, state your name and address for the record. You'll have 3 minutes to address the council.
I'm Ellen Kojima, and I live at 5435 57th Avenue, Court West. I live in the Pemberton Creek community, and I have 2 neighbors with me tonight that are from the same community. And we live, the Pemberton Creek community is just on the north side of Creekside Park, adjacent to Creekside Park. So my comments are about the master plan for Creekside Park that I heard about last meeting. As a neighbor to Creekside Park, I'm very excited about the plan to improve and protect this area. The parts of the plan that I feel most supportive about are preserving the natural character of the park, habitat restoration, walking trails, improving wetland habitat with new plantings and interpretive signage, connections to the north, south, and west as part of a walking corridor for wildlife and people. There are some ideas and recommendations that I question if they are suitable for Creekside Park. Sports fields, play areas and fitness stations, picnic shelter, lights, and restrooms. Not every park needs to be a playground. Some must remain quiet, restorative natural spaces. Playgrounds can be built anywhere. A functioning forested creek corridor cannot. Clover Creek watershed in Lakewood has been damaged by development and human alterations. Parts of Clover Creek are now dried up and do not work ecologically. In Creekside Park, we have a chance to preserve a rare watershed habitat, which is a critical link in the ecology of University Place. Thelma Gilmer Park can be a model for planners to look at. It's a 7-acre natural park centered on wetlands, forests, and the headwaters of Leech Creek. There's a walking trail with beautifully done signage. There's no parking, play area, or restrooms. The ecological significance of Creekside Park. It's a functioning forested creek corridor in a city that has lost most of them. Leech Creek once threaded through a continuous forest from Fircrest to Chambers Creek. Almost all of that has been fragmented by housing, roads, and commercial development. Creekside Park is one of the last intact forested sections of that corridor. Is that my time?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I brought a copy for each of you, and can I give it to you now? Or?
If you just give it to the city clerk, she'll make sure we get it. Thank you very much. Next we have signed up is Asuka Luden. No? Okay. All right. No worries there. Okay, so with that, we will close the public comments. We'll move to items 7A and 7F. At this time, we'll call for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
May I have a motion to amend the consent agenda? Removing items A, C, and D, and item A to make the necessary edits to the special council meeting minutes to include the names for the ad hoc advisory. And then the council committees and representative assignments, I understand that there has been a change.
Excuse me, we can't hear you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
There has been a change for the Committee and Representatives assignments. Councilmember Cunningham.
Yes, so Councilmember Figueroa and I are going to swap for the RCC. No?
No, we're not going to swap. I says,
Well, I mean, you're going to not be there.
yes.
Yes.
So the RCC,
So
I'm
swap
removing
meaning
my name
you're
and
not there.
adding Councilmember Cunningham.
And then I'm going to remove myself from the Opioid Abatement Council. What? What? I'm going to opioid abatement. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. And then for item C,
And then, is that all for item C? Any other changes to that, Mayor?
Who will be the representative for the opioid abatement? Who'll take over Councilmember Cunningham's position?
I'm happy to.
Councilmember Grassi.
Councilmember Grassi. Okay, thank you.
Mayor?
Yes.
Just a
Councilmember
correction,
Figueroa.
we're on C. I noticed that in the spreadsheet here that it used to be signaled out, but PSRC says PCRC committees. It really should be PCRC itself, and who's assigned right now. You're the there's no one really assigned to that. We have Puget Sound Regional Council committees, which you're assigned, and Ed as well as an alternate, I guess, and PCRC committees, SUTRAC. But as you know, you can't be on a PCRC committee SUTRAC without being on the PCRC itself. So I'd like to make it clear on this spreadsheet that there is a Pierce County Regional Council, period. And who's the member, which I've lost. Who is the two members? There's two actual voting members, and then usually there's an alternate that we pick. And that's lost content here. And I'd like to put it back like we had it because it's not clear.
Thank you, Councilmember Figueroa. If you look at line number 4, the Pierce County Regional Council has
excuse me.
myself and Mayor Pro Tem McCluskey as the primaries.
Got it.
With Councilmember Grassi and Councilmember Woods as the alternative. And
Thank you for the reminder.
No worries. And when you drop down below, then the subcommittees of the PCRC are listed out there.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay.
Okay, and then the last one is the commission interviews to remove Councilmember Grassi and put on Councilmember Boykin, correct?
Yes, Mayor Pro Tem, and I was on the council prior.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
Right.
So you didn't get bumped.
No, I did not.
You're still there.
I'm still there. Very good.
And I believe that's all the amendments unless we hear otherwise from council.
Okay, so that covers items A, C, and D. And I will accept that as a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Are there any other comments? Okay, all in favor of the amendments, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We will now move to the consent agenda itself. I'll accept a motion to approve the consent agenda as amended.
I move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded. Are there any further comments? Seeing that there's no, you can't have it now. Councilmember Figueroa.
Thank you, Mayor. Excuse me for not claiming this earlier, but there is a concern in one of the commission. Let's see. I'm trying to remember which one. There's one where there's 4 of us. I think it's
The liaison.
Pardon me? the Rules Committee. And so I think there's 4 of us. And my only concern is that requires every time we meet a public hearing, meeting, announcement, all that. I just want to make sure that we're aware that that's.
Yes.
Okay.
I think we checked that with the city attorney during the
Yeah.
retreat.
All 3 will require OPMA compliance.
Yeah.
All 3?
All 3 of your ad hocs will. So whether it's 3 or 4 individuals.
Oh, excuse me. Okay, thank you for that clarification. Thank you, Mayor.
No worries. Any others? Don't want to miss those. Okay, hearing none, consent agenda is approved. Let's go to item number 8 tonight, the city manager and council comments and reports. Mr. Suggs, before you do that, I am going to kind of take the moment here in the chair here and actually ask if our city clerk would introduce her new deputy. Madam Clerk, if you would.
Yes, hello, good evening. I'd like to introduce Tara Hoy. She started today with us, and she has been selected as our new deputy city clerk. She actually came from our, she is previously from Pierce County Library System. She is the managing librarian from Pierce County Library, University Place branch. So, right down below us.
All right.
Good to meet everyone.
Awesome. Well, welcome. This is your moment. Okay. Thank you so much and welcome aboard. All right. Mr. Suggs, the floor is yours.
Mayor, Council, just to bring everyone up to date, you probably saw some equipment, paving equipment out on 67th. We are paving a few days early because of impending weather coming in. Our contractor has moved quickly to take advantage of the great sunshine and dry weather that we have that won't be here for very long to go ahead and pave that street. So there will be, unfortunately, some traffic disruptions, but this too shall pass. We will have this, we will have that road back, and we'll end up with a really nice surface as a result. So the planned paving between 35th and 37th has been moved up several days, but it should be done here within a couple days. It doesn't take that long to pave 2 blocks. So thank you. That's my report.
All right. Thank you. Did you have a question? No. Oh, okay. With that, let's go to council comments, and we'll start. We'll start at this end of the dais tonight. I think last week we were at the right side of the dais, so we'll go to the left side. We'll start with Councilmember Boykin, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. Just wanted to share that the most impactful thing that I had an opportunity to participate in, was a meeting that had convened some strong leadership inside of Pierce County. The meeting actually opened up with County Executive Ryan Mello, and it was centered in the expectation of really business retention and the expectation of what happens when businesses have an opportunity to move from ownership. And good, bad, or indifferent, there is no succession plan. Approximately 6,300 businesses in Pierce County are going to be impacted that way. And over the next 10 years, our county executive was reminding us, actually acknowledging for us, that that's going to be literally billions of dollars that's going to come to Pierce County in terms of having the opportunity to transfer the wealth. So the expectation is that there should be a concerted effort to ensure that succession planning takes a formidable place in terms of business processes. And the group that's coming together to take a look at that are comprised of, again, not just leaders in Pierce County, but also invested people in the infrastructure, like bankers, like community partners that have a high expectation that if we can keep the wealth in our space, we are absolutely well advantaged as we move into economic development for the county and for our respective communities. I appreciate not just that sentiment, but I really believe that also provides an opportunity for undercapitalized communities to have a way into the wealth opportunity to actually make an impact in terms of the wealth gap that exists in our country, certainly exists in our geography. So thanks so much, Mr. Mayor, and that's my report.
Okay, thank you very much. Councilmember Cunningham.
Yes. So I think the first way I kicked off my last week was my first council retreat with my colleagues. It was a long day, but we got a lot done, and it was great to be supportive in some of the things that you guys had already worked on prior to my time, but it was great to be collaborative and work on things with you guys to move us forward. So that was an exciting day and time well spent. And so it was great, a lot of learning, a lot of leading, and I'm more excited to just be part of this 6 or 7, as if you take myself out of it, because you guys are great leaders and learners. So I appreciated that. One thing I want to highlight too is that we're having our first giant Easter egg hunt for the city, and I'm excited to be able to champion that and be part of that. So March 28th, we are supporting an Easter egg hunt at Cirque Park, 11 o'clock in the morning on Saturday, March 28th, ahead of the actual Easter holiday. So we're excited to welcome something like that to our community. We're known for having great activities and events, so it's nice to close this gap between the Christmas holiday and Duck Days and do something in the middle. So I'm excited about that, and we'll continue to promote that as much as we can so that all of our little kiddos in our district can have something to look forward to and ahead of the Easter holiday. So that's been exciting. One thing that was remarkable that I attended this week alongside our Chief Burke was the swearing in of the Tacoma Police Chief, Patty Jackson. She is the first woman chief that Tacoma Police Department has ever had. And she was, if any of you don't know, our interim, or their interim for a while, and then Mayor Ibsen made her permanent. So it was exciting, and the excitement in that space from her colleagues and peers was astronomical. Chief Ramsdell was there, Troyer was there, Paul Pastor was there, so everyone was there, really excited to see a woman lead that precinct. And she also did some lateral transfers and some other swearing-ins from other officers there. So it was great to be there to represent University Place. Burke and I held it down, and that was great to be in community with him. And I got some news today about an advisory panel that I sat on for Congresswoman Strickland a while back. And we were selected to be an advisory council to support some of her funding projects that she has coming down the pike just this last fiscal or calendar year. And today we got word that every single project on that list got funding. And one thing I'm proud of, and I wanted to acknowledge that here, is because the Chambers Creek Roundabout that we're working on was one of those projects. So it was exciting that we got what we needed, but the other cities around us got what they needed as well. So I was excited to be part of that. She represents our 10th district, and as we all know, we love Congresswoman Strickland, so it was exciting to be part of something that every single project that she was championing got funded, so that was exciting. So it's been a great week. Thank you all. That's all I have, Mayor.
That's great information. Thank you, Councilmember Cunningham. Councilmember Grassi.
Thank you, Mayor Fleming. I want to say again thank you to Angela Lowe and to our proclamation for Women's Day. And it was so apropos that Chief Jackson got sworn in Women's History Month. I was so excited for that. So congratulations to the city of Tacoma. They have a wonderful leader there, and I'm so glad that you got to represent us at that event. I also want to say a thank you. I'll start with my thank yous, but on a personal note, our church foundation located right here in University Place for 7 years. We celebrated our 7-year anniversary, and I want to thank Mayor Fleming and Councilmember Boykin for attending that celebration. But our church has fed thousands of people in our community through the pandemic and through the Farmers to Families program, throughout our food pantry that's open every week and summer camp. And so it's been a pleasure to be in University Place. I can't believe it's been 7 years of impacting this community. So congratulations to all of those that are a part of our church foundation, and thank you again to my colleagues for making time to be there to celebrate. I also was able to participate in the United Regional Approach to Homelessness elected leadership meeting, and we're moving that initiative down the pipeline again to have a unified approach to serving those that are unhoused in Pierce County. And there will be more to come, but I think that we're making good strides towards an interlocal and agreement. But again, it's an ongoing conversation. It's a big animal, and I'm just really grateful to have been asked to serve on that team, because their leaders, our county executive, Chair of County Council Chair Hitchen, Mayor Ibsen, and others, that really have decided to take time and to lean into this idea of being unified around it. And I thank you for Jennifer Hales from our Public Safety Department for being our staff lead on that team. So more to come on that, but it was a productive meeting. I was loved being a part of the Global Innovation and Design Lab Futures Conversation. I was invited by Manager Alice Boykin and Vice Chancellor of UW-T. What a wonderful event. The conversation was around wellness and civic engagement. Mayor Pro Tem, you would have appreciated the conversation, but the direct correlation with wellness and civic engagement. And as someone who believes the more you lean in, the more you serve, the better you are, it really was an excellent conversation moderated by Mrs. Boykin, but also these amazing students at UW-T that just had wonderful ideas and were able to share in a safe space in the Innovation Design Lab what are the barriers to their civic engagement and what barriers are they facing. And so I was honored to be a part of that conversation, and with so many other leaders from around Pierce County. It was wonderful. The Up for Arts concert in the atrium on Saturday was a packed house in our atrium, so a wonderful event. Thank you to Up for Arts for making that possible for our community. Absolutely free, and what a world-class concert to have right here in our community. I loved being able to be a part of that. I also attended the West Side Wake Up with the Chamber at Boathouse 19 for the West Side businesses, and I am excited to say that they are going to move that meeting from quarterly to monthly, and chairing that will be Sierra Boyce, the owner of Hot Works right here in University Place. That will now happen monthly, the third Thursday of every month, and so it'll change locations every month. The next location is happening at New Hope Community Church right on 27th and Bridgeport. But that's an exciting group, and as you know, my passion around small business and the business community, to really have that West Side come alive and be able to meet more often. It was a full house, which was wonderful to see. Sarah Bonds from our Economic Development Department and Becky were there as well, Becky Metcalf, and it was just a wonderful full group. I'm excited to meet new business owners and looking forward to their monthly meeting happening now. For my small business highlight, I want to just give a very compassionate mention to Thirsty Hound. They had a dear employee, their manager, Stephanie, who passed away last week, and she was the heart and soul of Thirsty Hound. And for all those that own a small business, you know that your managers, your staff, are the heartbeat of your organization. And she left behind children who will now be supported through 25% of Melodi's proceeds that she is the owner of Salted Rim, will now go to benefit Stephanie's children. So Stephanie, who passed away, employee of Thirsty Hound, the sister of Melody, one of the owners of Salted Rim. So both two wonderful businesses in our community that are both in mourning right now, but have both committed to go on and to commit proceeds from their business to Stephanie's children. So those that are listening and watching, I encourage you to visit Thirsty Hound and the Salted Rim and do it in honor of Stephanie. We know that our community experiences loss every day, and so I know there's many people here who are watching that have experienced a loss in this community, but it's important to take a pause and recognize those when we do know about it. And I want to thank that business for being so dedicated to our community. And last but not least, I just want to invite the community to, if you are up next Monday morning at 9 a.m., I've been invited to lead the Senate invocation for the Washington State Senate Monday at 9 a.m. And I believe deeply in the power of prayer, and I love praying for our leaders and for our state Senate. And so it is an honor to be able to lead that. So that will be Monday morning, March 9th at 9 a.m. If you are available, you can watch online. So thank you, Mayor. That's all I have.
That is awesome. Thank you, Councilmember Grassi. Councilmember Wood.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a few things. First, I'll just start. Ellen Kojima, just thank you for coming tonight and engaging about the park. Parks are precious to us all, and I really appreciate when the community engages and tells us what they feel. So thank you for being here, and you and your friends. Council retreat, all I'll say is that I thought it was a very valuable conversation. I really appreciate the perspective of all my fellow council members. And what's absolutely clear to me, even if we don't agree on everything, I have no doubt in my mind that everybody on this side loves this community. I didn't see any self-interest. I just saw people who are trying to do the best thing for their community, and I just thought it was a great discussion for the group. And then finally, when you were reading the International Women's Day Proclamation, two words kind of came out to me just because of recent events, and I normally try and stay out of national level issues while we're talking here on the diet, but I got to touch on this one. You mentioned the two words, full participation. And it immediately came to mind is the current effort by people in the military, in our civilian leadership, to sever the ties with Scouting America because they don't agree with the policies of Scouting America, specifically letting girls participate. And as the proud parent of 2 Eagle Scouts, 1 male, 1 female, I am entirely opposed to that effort, and I just wanted to go on the record as saying so. And thank you, Mayor. That concludes my comments.
Thank you, Councilmember Wood. Well said. Councilmember Figueroa.
Well, shoot. Thank you, Mayor. A lot of good information and updates. A lot of what I wanted to touch on has been said, so there's no point in repeating. So ditto to everybody that has said it. Thank you for sharing. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem McCloskey.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Wood, I'm sorry to hear that as well. Like we're taking 10 steps forward, but a few steps backwards in that regard. But we shall overcome. You know, as decisions are made, they are typically temporary until the next set of decision makers take its place. And hopefully they have wisdom to reinstate that viable connection with our armed forces. I really enjoyed our retreat that we had. I thought we had a lot of heartfelt discussions, truth and honesty, and in communication, which was so important because that is what will make our council thrive. And I believe that for me, that was the most positive step. And, you know, communication is never resolved. It's never complete. It's always a work in progress. But I think we made some huge, giant leaps in regards to that. So I'm really thankful for that. Up for art. I was there for the setup, but I had a conflict. I had my grandson who is in state basketball champions. He's doesn't play at Curtis. He plays at Bremerton High School, and they won the state at this level. Now they're going on to Yakima to hopefully maybe get the state title. But they beat Renton, which is a very aggressive team, so I was very proud of how everyone played on the Bremerton team. And I could say that particularly a couple individuals on the Bremerton team are being scouted by the National League of Basketball currently in some universities, and one already has a scholarship to go back to Italy for more basketball training. So hopefully they'll win state. This will be the 3rd year if they do. So Wells City 2026, 12 years in a row. Congratulations, University Place. Lisa Paturik and her team and whoever else is involved in it. I think our communications director, Linda Sees, as well. So what that means is that our health premiums will have discounts, but it also, more importantly, it promotes employee health and wellness in all aspects of what makes us a healthy individual and coming to work and enjoying our work environment. So 12 years in a row. Congratulations on that. I also, as I mentioned, was at the Up for Art concert to put that together. And I want to mention that most of the restaurants were full to capacity prior to the start of the concert. And there was a lot of life and people walking the streets, and so it was really fun to feel that energy right before we have a concert in the atrium that was opening up, and it's opened up to it's a high-end concert series that Up for Arts are doing. We had this time a Korean sopranoist and a world-renowned pianist who is our UP president, Orlando Rome. But it is also open to children as well, because part of the Up for Art vision and mission is to encourage the youth to not only participate in music and the arts of whatever that is, but to come and enjoy it even in an adult-like environment. So if you decide to bring your children, they are warmly welcome there. And even if they make noise, they understand that that's part of the learning process. I went to a PCRC meeting a few weeks back. It was a very short meeting, unusual for them. So it talked about the work program, some juvenile justice, veterans programs, a little bit of the budget was discussed, the growth management, I can't remember, I just lost what the GMCC means. Anyway, the GMCC, so it's basically about updating the Shoreline Master Plan programs this year, updates to dovetail into the 2050 visioning. And also we talked a little about the regional approach to homelessness. That is going to be part of our discussion in the upcoming 2026. So I'll have to get together with Councilmember Grassi when those things come up on the agenda. The Transportation Committee talked about the next cycle, which will happen in 2027 with and basically what we're doing in 2026 is gathering ideas for funding and sharing ideas amongst the members at PCRC. Also at the meeting, I was reappointed to the Zoo-Trek board for the next 4 years, so this makes my third iteration. So I've been there 8 years, so I guess I'll be there for 12. But that is the most fun board to be a part of because you get to learn so much about all the animals at the zoo and trek. And they're just an amazing staff. I can't applaud them enough for all the wonderful work and the expertise that they have there. I was very privileged to meet with Ruby Grau. She is the daughter of Mark Grau, who used to own the Frog and Kiwi. She is on her way to becoming an Eagle Scout. She just received her life badge, and she was really excited to be a Boy Scout. And I gave her a tour of the City Hall and an opportunity to help her answer some questions and to get some requirements done for her citizen badges that she's working on. And she got to grill me on a few questions. And Chief Burke, she was grilling me on ICE. So I appreciate when I met with you that you gave me all those wonderful details because I most certainly related it to her questions, which was, so she was mainly concerned about what would be University Place's response in case there was an ICE raid within our city limits. And so Chief Burke in a meeting gave me some insight on that and how that would evolve and what the policies and procedures were. So I really appreciated having that prior knowledge because I didn't expect what questions she was going to ask me at the moment. And I am familiar with Thelma Gilmore Park. She was a fellow birder. And I got to know her also because she helped my Girl Scout troop identify and learn about birds and how they impact our environment. And so I have noted Ellen Kajama's comments to heart, and we will certainly take that under consideration. And then I would also like to introduce to you Asaka Luden, who you see in the back. She has been attending several of our meetings because she is interested, Councilmember Grassi, in the beautification of our city and how that is so we can move that forward a little bit. And she loves to get her hands dirty. She likes the dirt underneath her fingernails. So I was excited to have a meeting with her. We talked, I guess, almost 2 hours. And so I'm really excited as to what that's going to look like.
more daffodil planters along with me.
She's already putting you to work. See that? It doesn't take long. All you have to say is, I'm willing. That's what I'm saying. People who volunteer in our community, we will put you to work. And I'll conclude my comments there.
That was great. Thank you very much, Mayor Pro Tem. You know, Azuka, when I just heard what I just heard, I'm going to say this is exciting because you and Councilmember Grassi can pick up where Councilmember Grassi's father and I left off. And her dad used to abuse me during the beautification process. And someday I can share some stories about that. You know, for those that are in the chamber tonight and for those that are listening at home, it's really important to hear what the council members are sharing. You know, their reports out are not so much things about themselves, but things that they are engaged in doing on behalf of all the citizens of our community, as well as to educate and inform and let citizens know that there's a lot of opportunities for all of us to get engaged and involved in the activities in the daily life of our community. So it's exciting. You know, I learn something every time, and I appreciate, you know, just the engagement of everyone here. You know, with regards to the council retreat, needless to, I don't want to be redundant of what's been said, but I thought the retreat was well done, not because we had anything to do with it, but because the council really was fully engaged, open, honest, you know, with your comments and feedback, and we really appreciated that and took it to heart with that. You know, with regards to comments at the Creekside Park, thank you so much for sharing those comments tonight. We will certainly review those as we go on in that process and take that under advisement. But I do want to acknowledge that. I, too, had the chance to join at the Pierce County Regional Council. I think the Mayor Pro Tem did an excellent job summarizing everything that took place there. If she didn't mention that she had been reappointed, I was going to mention that because that's a big deal. I mean, I had the privilege a long time ago of being the vice chair of that committee, and you're right. You learn so much about zoology, if you will, and there's a lot to be had. You know, at the various activities we have at the zoo track, as well as at the aquarium and the zoo over at Point Defiance. So I'm excited that you're there and look forward to those ongoing updates. That's pretty exciting. As Councilmember Figueroa had pointed out, there are subcommittees of PCRC. One of those is the Puget Sound Regional Council, which looks at things a little bit more globally in the South Sound or the Puget Sound region. Pierce County Regional Council looks at issues pertinent to Pierce County, and then you take it one step above that. You have the Puget Sound Regional Council, which I currently represent, PCRC, on the PSRC Executive Board, as well as their operations. The meeting there really talked about goals for 2026. I won't go into the details. I'll hit the highlights of what those goals were. And if you have a desire for more details, I'll get those to you. But goal one was to continue outreach efforts, including the regular visits to the PSRC members' jurisdictions. Goal two was strengthen regional cooperation and collaboration. Goal three, sustain partnerships with federal and state offices and other key stakeholders. Goal four, fully utilize existing transportation funding. And goal 6, did I skip a goal? Goal 5. Goal 5 was to deliver outstanding regional planning and data gathering reporting efforts. And then goal 6 was to continue to advance community engagement and support for underserved communities in the PSRC region. So, you know, we continue to stay engaged because what they decide, especially when it comes to transportation funding, it does have an impact on our, not only on Pierce County, but on our city eventually. So those are important things. So with that said, again, thank you all for your comments and reports. All was very well done, and we appreciate that. Seeing that there's no other comments and reports tonight, let's recess to study session at this time, and we'll move to item number 9, which is a public hearing on stormwater management program updates. To present that is we have Jack Eklund, who is our Public Works Director, and Todd Smith, our MPDES Coordinator.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and City Council. As you mentioned, I'm Jack Eklund, Director of Public Works, and with me is Todd Smith, our NPDS Coordinator. And tonight we're bringing to you for both study and public hearing our annual update of our 2026 NPDS Stormwater Management Program. The city is required, as a condition of our NPDS municipal stormwater permit, to develop, implement, and annually update our stormwater management program. This program lists the required elements and identifies the actions and activities required to be undertaken to meet the permit requirements. There are 12 required elements of the program. They are stormwater planning, public education outreach, public involvement and participation, mapping and documentation, illicit discharge detection and elimination, controlling runoff from development and construction sites, stormwater management for existing development, source control program, operation and maintenance, monitoring, assessment, reporting and record keeping, and compliance with underground injection control wells, which are more commonly referred to as like a dry well or a location where things get infiltrated in the ground. The city's current permit term is from August of 24 to July of 29. So we're in the middle of the current permit. This update itself, the major elements of the update were last year's was a much more substantial update as it was implementing new permit requirements. The summary of this really is just updating most of the dates, milestones, as well as adding a little bit of clarifying language. I would like to direct you in your council packet. There's a memo in there that more completely summarizes the changes as well as summarizes and explains a little more detail of each of the different elements in our program and how we're meeting them. In addition, I'd also like to direct you, your council packet also has a full copy of the proposed revised program. And then one thing I do want to also bring to your attention is in the program on page 37 of the program, the bullet item 2 is a item that addresses the inspection of public and private stormwater facilities. And the reason I want to highlight this is an example of where the city is going above and beyond what is required by a permit to be more protective for the community. And in this case, we identify that we are to annually inspect all stormwater facilities, in particular all stormwater flow and water control, water quality facilities. But the permit itself, as it relates to private facilities, only requires the city to inspect 80% of privately owned stormwater flow control and water quality facilities constructed after 2007 or at later. And so what we've done here, basically the direction of council, when we went through this bigger, last year is really when we updated this, but council had wanted us to be more, request we change this so that we are annually inspecting all these private facilities. That we can. So not just the ones that were 2007 or later, but any ones that we have the rights to go into. So, for example, there's several of older facilities that, whether it's through a maintenance covenant or the plat of the recorded plat of the development, either the county or that then became us, or the city had rights to go into. So that covers probably 90% of the private storm facilities in the city. And so now our program, we are going to go out there and annually look at every one of these facilities in order to better monitor and provide guidance to the private homeowners associations to reflect and give them guidance on their maintenance needs of these facilities. I do want to make there is the very small exception is some very, very old facilities that there There's no recorded rights for us to go into. In those cases, we do attempt to contact a property owner, request to be able to give them the guidance to go in there. We do still inspect the point of connections into our system from all those older developments if they don't want to give us rights, but we don't have the authority to go on to a private property if we haven't been granted that. But overall, this is quite a bit more protective than what the permit requires. Most cases in our program, we are generally finding ways to meet the permit requirements, but this is the biggest instance of going above and beyond. Then I just want to also note that the public has been invited to view this draft stormwater program on our website, and the public comment period there has been open since February 4th, and we have been receiving some comments, and also they can continue to provide comments to Todd at either his email at tsmith@cityofUP.com or at his phone number at 253-460-5432. And then we also invite any public present either at the meeting or online to provide comments tonight during the public hearing portion of this session, and then we are scheduled to come back for consideration at our upcoming council meeting. So with that, I would like to open up any questions you guys may have for the study session.
I'm going to do one thing because I'm looking at the rules of engagement here, and it says we've got to follow some other procedures before the city attorney smacks my hands. So I'm just going to ask the council if you'll indulge me and hold your comments, but we will get to those. How's that? Fair enough? So any other things to report, Jack?
No, that's everything for the report.
Okay. So with that said, at this time we're going to have a public hearing for the Stormwater Management Plan update, which is now open. And this is an opportunity for the public to share any comments on the matter, and for those who are joining us online, instructions for participating are displayed on the screen. So for those who are in the council chamber, is there anyone wishing to comment on this particular item? Okay, seeing that there's none, are there any individuals who wish to present public comment that are joining us remotely?
I don't see anyone online, Mayor.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Seeing that there is no public comments, the public hearing is now closed. And with that, I will open it for council discussion. I know Councilmember Wood requested, so we will start with you.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a quick question, Jack. You mentioned you were getting some comments already. Is there any trends or any particular consistency among those comments, or is it just like detail?
Actually, I think most of the comments we received were all just either questions or clarifying points of clarification. So there's been some requests for some formatting changes or that sort of thing. There wasn't. Todd, did you have anything other than that? Do you think of?
No, I think that was pretty much it. It was a lot of formatting. Some of it has to do with the formatting of the actual state permit itself. So there's not a lot I can do with that, but. There's a lot of, as you've noticed, there's SWIMP and SMAP, and there's a lot of acronyms that there was a recommendation maybe we put in a little chart with some acronyms to help explain it. So we're looking into that.
Thank you.
Yep.
That's all, Mayor.
Okay. Councilmember Figueroa.
Thank you, Mayor. Funding type. The SWIM fees normally pay for all what we do under this permitting process, as well as other things that we do. My question is, because we do have some of the highest, I believe, I might be wrong, you might correct me, it's fine. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we have one of the highest swim fees in the county.
I wouldn't say we're the highest. I would say if you kind of band it in thirds, we're kind of in the upper part of the middle third, let's say.
Okay.
If that's
and with that, we're collecting enough to support what we need to do. You don't see additional fees coming up for that?
Not with this, no.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Others? Mayor Pro Tem McCluskey.
Thank you for this report, Mr. Eklund and Mr. Smith. as my annual question is, as you come before me, what is the public education that has been planned for this year in 2026?
Well, I know where you're going with this, and unfortunately, we lost our contract with the Tacoma Pierce County Health Department, who's done our natural yard care classes in the past 7 years or so. So I'm working hard with the Pierce Conservation District, some of our other cities and municipalities, finding out what they're offering. I'm going to try to jump on with them and see if we can provide something different for a year or two till I can get that contract back.
All right. Okay. Please keep me updated, because I have citizens that are interested in that.
Yeah, and it's always posted. Anything new I have posted on the website, and I have a lot of stuff out at, I think, every special event. We have a stack of flyers going out for any new events and activities.
All right. Thank you for all your hard work.
Thank you.
Other questions, comments? Thank you. Jack, I do have just a few, if I might. My first one is how do we monitor the runoff from development sites?
So there's a couple things, and it's so we will look at, part of it is the areas. Are you talking about during construction or after post-construction?
All the above.
Okay. So during construction, we do both before they start inspections, make sure their erosion controls are in place. As they're building it, we monitor that they're maintaining their work, that they build their storm system properly, and they make the proper connections. And then that all their facilities are built as they're supposed to be done. And then we also require them to get an engineer to certify everything as well in addition. After it's being done, we will do the annual inspections of the facilities. We also, when we're doing our cleaning of our public storm system or inspection of that, every time we have a connection from those off-site things, we check and verify, are we seeing some unusual amount of either sediment or a funny looking sheen or some sort of funny water coming out of that. So that's something that our staff are trained to look for. And then we also, through the public education and the stewardship, we try to empower them to understand what they're supposed to be doing, and so we work with them as an educational standpoint to try to kind of monitor that as well.
Thank you. My next question is, do we know how many private retention ponds that we have in the city?
We do. Todd, do you have that number?
Yeah, I have 22 private ponds, and I have about 80 private flow control water quality structures, facilities that I have on our list right now. And then as I'm out doing my source control inspections for business inspections, a lot of times we come across other ones as well.
Okay. And then with that, how do you handle, how do I say this? How do you handle evaluating stormwater retention ponds if the owner of that says, you're not welcome here? Are there other ways to monitor that?
Well, there's a set of standards in the King County Stormwater Design Manual that I usually send out to them first off, and I say, here's what's expected, and this is what it means to have a well-maintained. Then I try to find on the plat, or I try to find the stormwater maintenance covenant, which most of these after 07, all developments and stuff have that kind of thing. So I can hold that out. And on that, if they don't do those things, my next step is I can go to enforcement, which I haven't had to do. Most of the time, by the time I get to that point, they get tired of hearing from me, and they've realized that it's the right thing to do, and to protect stormwater, to protect the streams and the rivers in Puget Sound. So it usually happens. Some of the smaller ponds, I can go out and meet with them on site, a lot of education and outreach with them, and tell them this is what we need to do, first steps, and this is what it says, this is what's required. A lot of times for these older ponds, it's a lot of work, and it can be very, very expensive. And so I'll work with them and say, hey, how about we work on getting the vegetation and all the trees knocked down first, and then let's work into getting back the sedimentation out of the pond and that in future years. And so I try to work with them as much as possible because I understand it's a lot of money and it's a lot of work to do, especially when you've deferred your maintenance for years and years and years. And a lot of times they don't know. The maintenance, the developments change hands from the time the developer builds it to each and every homeowner. And all of a sudden they go, wait, who are you and why are you telling me I have to do these things? And so it just takes a little follow-up, a little education, a little hand-holding, but we've been doing really well.
Yeah, and we've been fortunate that we haven't really run. There's been a handful of folks that will request a copy of, like, okay, where's the thing that says I have to do this? Fortunately for each of those, we've had those documents. The ones that are, but a vast majority of folks, including the ones that maybe are even the legacy ones that may not have a set requirement from their old plats, still have been very compliant. They want to make sure they're doing what they're supposed to do. And so we haven't run into any case where we're seeing problems. Now, the tools we have in our code does allow us to, if there was an instance where someone says, no, you can't come out, we're not going to do anything, we still have abilities to monitor what type of water is coming out of it based on the connection at our public system. And so in those cases, if there was a problem, that becomes our enforcement and compliance point. But fortunately, we haven't had to go in that position, taken that step anywhere.
Okay, thank you with that. And then you mentioned you use the King County standards, but we live in Pierce County. Does Pierce County have standards?
They do. So part of why we have the King County standards is when we first incorporated, King County was much further ahead of the game than Pierce County was in their stormwater standards. And they were quite outdated at the time, and we wanted to make sure we were being as, best technology, best kind of codes available at the time. Since then, Pierce County standards have gotten better. However, we still believe the King County is a little bit better. It's easier to follow. It has a little better, more developed standards, has more prescriptive type of, like, for smaller developments, they have a whole section on, you don't have to go and hire an engineer. You can use these, like, kind of preset things and guidance for small property owners. So they have a lot more developed. However, we also give the option of just the Department of Ecology manual as well if people want to use that. So you do have some options, but we're sticking with King County just because it feels to be a little bit better, still better developed than Pierce County.
And is that enforceable then within our community?
Yes, yeah, because we've specifically adopted it, and then, but we've adopted in a way that is catered to our community. So we've translated, like, basins to mean what our basins are and specific. So we're covered.
Okay. And then my last question, I call it the elephant in the room, but how does all this affect or apply to the Harvest Ridge retention pond?
Yeah, so a lot of what I was mentioning with the, that was part of the direction from council to make sure that we're going out and ensuring that we're inspecting these annually to make sure some of these homeowners associations or private businesses which may not understand, what are the requirements, and it can be overwhelming if they've been ignoring it for years. And so by doing it annually, inspecting it, making sure that they don't let something get away from them, like the situation that occurred at Harvest Ridge, then the routine maintenance is something that then becomes a manageable issue, and it wouldn't get to that point of where they just although they had a management company that they believed was doing the appropriate thing but had neglected to do the things they were supposed to. So now by us going out and doing the inspections, that will help both educate them and avoid those problems in the future. Harvest Ridge is they're one of those instances that they are pre-2007. So prior to us taking the action to add that we're going to inspect everyone we can, they were in the case that they're not required by our NPDES permit to go out and annually inspect, but council has wanted us to do it, and we think that's an appropriate step.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I don't have any further questions. Last chance for council. Councilmember Boykin.
Thank you very much, Mayor, because I certainly appreciate the question. I'm going to ask for a further comment regarding your last comment, specifically as it involves Harvest Ridge, regarding the opportunity to tell me, and this also can be for you, Mr. Smith, of the summary changes that you've got. It is bulletin number 2 that says references to 2025 milestones or deadlines that have been completed and or were removed. Does that impact at all Harvest Ridge in terms of the approach that you have taken as it predated the 2007 expectation and requirement? And do you have any comments around that, perhaps?
That in particular wouldn't impact the Harvest Ridge, because since they were a pre-2007, so generally the permit itself, since we were under the 2007 date is when the NPS permit first became effective to University Place.
Yes.
And so the way the regulations are set up is we're only required to regulate things relative to the permit for things 2007 and more recent. So the milestones in the permit specifically only reflect those type of things. As it relates to Harvest Ridge, however, just basically our addition to be able to going out there and saying we want to treat that and give the same kind of guidance to that development as we would a post-2007 development. And so from that standpoint is how we're being more proactive and supportive for those older developments.
I think you just alluded to the point that I was hoping would be made. There's an opportunity for there to be a serious conundrum, particularly when you look at particular developments as well as the expectation that happens with residents and their understanding. So the expectation of what we're going to do forward certainly addresses it differently, but certainly being able to provide the additional information and commentary is very, very helpful. I appreciate it.
Okay. Yes.
I just would like to add, for Javier, you've made it clear the last couple, or Councilmember Figueroa.
Thank you.
The fees and all that go into this program, I just want to remind everybody that's watching on TV that we have applied for grants every 2 years from Department of Ecology, and we've received a $120,000 grant for this next 2-year cycle, which does help pay for anything that relates to the operation of this permit. So it's something to be noted. It's not a lot, but it's 120, so it's pretty good. So thank you for asking your questions.
Okay. Any other questions? All right. Seeing that there's none, the Stormwater Management Plan update will be placed on the March 16th council agenda for consideration under the consent agenda. With that said, let's move now to item number 10. That's the Arts and Culture Advisory Commission. We have a staff report from our city attorney, Mr. Matt Kaiser, and Mr. Jack Eklund, Public Works Director.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Matt Kaiser, City Attorney. Back for you for another study session is a revised draft ordinance on the Arts and Culture Advisory Commission. Note the emphasis on advisory. I was just looking at the memo as I was ready to launch, and I noticed I actually didn't stick that in the memo, but it's in the ordinance. As you may recall, last time we were here, you had first crack at a draft ordinance, and council had a very lively discussion. We said we'd make some changes to the draft ordinance, bring it back for further council discussion, touch points, and council had expressed some desire, I believe, to have some further discussion in advance of potential passage. So let me bring you up to date on what has changed. You'll note in your packet there is a revised ordinance. We have taken the liberty of highlighting those areas that I want to call out for specific discussion as we go through this discussion later tonight. The first significant change, which is not highlighted, As you may recall, at the last meeting, council had requested that we rebrand the commission to the Arts and Culture Advisory Commission, the ACAC, or if you prefer, the Commission. That's my one hairball joke for the night. I will leave it with that. That change is made and has noted it is not highlighted. Consistent with the inclusion of the cultural components, you will note that there's an amendment to the proposed scope of the commission, which appears for those who have the electronic version of the packet at about page 105, which includes language where they would encourage public programs to further the development and public awareness of and interest in the fine and performing arts, provide recommendations to the City Council in connection with cultural and artistic endeavors and projects, end quote. So hopefully that encompasses where council's intent was for the and culture part. The other discussions, if you were to flip to the next page of the draft ordinance, you'll note that the highlighting is actually fairly modest, because I think that's ultimately where you're down to from the general discussion, which all those highlights revolve around really 2 points, and both center on the membership of the commission and the youth composition, if any, associated with the commission. There have not been any substantive changes except to really call out where there's still some room based on what we thought we heard from council's last discussion on this. First highlight of note is there had been an extensive discussion on the composition of the number of commissions. As you know, with your other 4 commissions, or the 4 current commissions, all have 7 members. There was some discussion, do we want to keep it at 7? Do we want to do some other number? If council has a desire for some other number, whatever that may be, we can certainly make appropriate changes. The second is also with respect to the youth component, which focused on a lot of council's discussion. I've highlighted some areas where that language is potentially there for potential changes. Council had focused on what we picked up on was really 2 areas of issue. What was the age of the youth member, if the council wished to so age restrict, and the term limits of that youth member. There's some discussion, run it through 1 year as opposed to the other 4 years, sunset that member as of June 30th at that time. So those issues have been flagged. You'll note that the changes in here also apply with, at least with respect to the youth member, apply with equal force and effect to the Parks Advisory Commission, which also has a youth seat if feasible. However, and Jack's going to correct me if I'm wrong here, that youth seat has not been filled in a substantial period of time, despite the availability of a youth membership seat. So just ask council to bear that in mind as it goes forward along this process in terms of language versus what may be reality. But at the end of the day, as with the other 4 commissions, this is ultimately your commission. So it is an opportunity to shape it in that regard. With that, I'm going to catch my breath for a second here. Ask Mr. Eklund if there's anything that I missed, and then return the matter to council for further discussion.
I think the one thing I still just want to point out is, even with some of the changes or the highlights here, one, it is still trying to mirror what we're doing at our other commissions, so we want to have some consistency overall. But the biggest thing is it's still, and I think this is very important, it's written in a way that enables the most flexibility for the council. So whether or not how you do the composition, ultimately who you solicit and who you pick is up to the council, which I think, and then what you want the commission to work on and the type of art and culture activities is still ultimately at the discretion and direction of the council. And I think that's an important element, and that's consistent with what our other commissions do as well.
So, and I'll just piggybacking off that, you have a fairly robust framework that overall has generally worked with your other 4 commissions. We heard a lot of those comments when we took another look at your overall commissions code. It didn't sound like there was really a need to tailor the other pieces to this commission. So you have the framework to largely get to where you need to go. From what we took away, the questions that we've outlined for you tonight, I think is really where you're at before this is ultimately ready for action. And if there's a difference of opinion, at least on some of these things, that's one of the things that we're hoping to tease out from tonight's discussion is, all right, Where are the potential amendments and decision points for council as this comes forward for an ultimate vote at an upcoming meeting? You know, is the number, I'm being a little cheeky here, but is the number 7 or is it 9? You know, we can prepare language that says, hey, I want to move to amend it to 9 or move it to 7 or whatever the number might be, if we're hearing that there's a difference of opinion on these points. But when you look at the overall body and listen to where council's discussion has been, you've gotten this fairly down. You're down to sort of a very narrow point at this point. So with that, I'll catch my breath and turn it over to council.
Okay, thank you very much. I think, you know, instead of trying to jump all over the map on this, it may make sense for us to kind of take it in pieces and see if we can build a consensus one way or another around each topic that we have here. So the first one that I see here is the age recommendation on paragraph 3, where it talks about the youth member in particular would be between the age 15 and question mark.
Yeah.
You know, I recall in our previous discussions, it was it 15 to 18? Was it 15 to 19? Because that's high school age. Youth, could it be 15 to 21, which is an adolescent definition? There was certainly concerns, well, that would include someone who's in college potentially at that point. But, you know, I think, again, for the purpose of trying to narrow this down, why don't we open that piece up for council comments and conversation and see if we can at least build a consensus of what that endpoint should be. So with that said, comments. Councilmember Grassi.
Thank you, Mayor Fleming. Just a question too and a comment too. I know when we left off speaking about the youth age, I think you were going to reach out to direction to school districts as well and talk to our friends over at the school district. I had a conversation with a resident who is also the principal of Charles Wright Middle School, and it was right after this meeting, and she highly suggested that we engage junior hires or at the end of junior high, 9th grade, 8th grade as well. But I was interested to see if you had any conversations.
Yeah, that's also consistent with the feedback we've received from the art teachers in the junior high and high school too. I think they also believe there's value in the junior high school students, and you don't have to look very far than some of our the Colored Up contest where we received a lot of it. I bet probably about half of our entries came from the junior high age kids, and many of those are the ones that you saw out on the street. And so there is certainly value in looking at those ages as well, because they are also engaged with the art, and it's pretty active group.
That would be more 14, 13 starting, correct?
I would say yes, if we could expand it to that.
Okay. So my suggestion would be to, again, take the recommendation of those leaders that are in every day. You talk to the school district, I talk to Charles Wright. So that was my comment for that.
Okay. Other comments? Councilmember Cunningham?
Okay, so you said something about, or at least Matt, you said something regarding the fact that the Park Commission was designed for a youth space. So coming from the Park Commission, I did not know that. And where is that promoted, I guess, is my first question. Second, I know the parks is very different than the arts, but I think that we should consider that when we're coming up with this number, because I've been on there for 4 years and there's never been an interest for youth. So although they're very different in contrast, I think we need to model what we did not do well to promote a youth space or seat for the Park Commission, to make sure that we don't do that for the Arts Commission. What was the age criteria for the Parks Commission? And then because the Park Commission has 7 seats, were you assuming that that 7th seat would be the youth, and then we'd have 6 commissioners? Because then that's, so it was just going to be 7, and any of them can be occupied by youth, or what was the
And that was the past practice.
Before we go down that, and I appreciate the comment, I didn't mean to cut you off, but let's hold that one for the next part. We're just trying to work through the age piece right now.
Okay.
So let's focus on that, and then we're going to come back and talk about
Can I at least ask, what was the age criteria for the parks?
So specific to how it previously was written, it was non-specific. It just said a youth member, and so it ultimately was I guess, up to the council of what, well, as it had to, whoever we could get to even show interest in it. But from the youth from that standpoint. But it was very broad. It could have been any.
Got it.
Whatever the council considered youth is what was considered youth for that one.
Sorry, Mayor. I just needed to dig a little bit.
That's okay. You've got passion, and I love it. So, okay. Other questions? Mayor Pro Tem McCluskey.
Thank you, Mayor. I concur with Councilmember Grassi. There's wonderful artists at the junior high level, and they're reaching that maturity age where they could go into some of the details in depth of what would be required in the art and culture commissions, and that would hopefully be vetted out in the recruitment process so that we can get the right fit and also the right interest so that they are there for each commission meeting as best that they could. That was the issue, as I mentioned before, on the parks. I would like the cutoff date to be the high school, 18, 19 years old, at time, a senior in high school at time of appointment. Because we want to capture the youth within our community. And typically when they're graduating from high school, they're moving on, hopefully to college or, to whatever endeavors that they see best fitting for their career. So when the students are in high school, they're engaged with their peers, and they'll be able to ask questions and vet some of their ideas. That's happening in the commission, and so we will get a more comprehensive feel, and that commissioner will bring, I think, a lot of richness to each of the park commission, maybe in the future, as well as the art and culture commission, if the council sees fit to go forward with that.
Thank you. Councilmember Figueroa.
Thank you, Mayor. I think maybe we should not refer to age, because if I'm hearing everybody, or the intent is that we're looking at youth from within our school system, and we should probably say if it's Curtis High School or any school, but I would assume this Curtis High School youth we should say from 8th grade or 7th grade. I really don't care, whatever that 13, 14, 15 we want, but we should just say from 8th grade to 12th grade, and forget about because somebody could be 20 years old for whatever reason. We shouldn't worry about that. We should just say 12th grade. I like to comment out, I don't know who said it, but it should be at least clarified that if you're in 12th grade, they have to apply at the beginning of the school year, or as soon as June 30th or July the 1st. The only reason is the reason I say that is nobody applies, and all of a sudden at midnight on January 1st, they say, well, I want to do something here for just as a little project before I graduate. Do we want that? Because I think that would be a lot of, training wheels going on there, and then they're gone. And that's a lot of work on staff and or council of commissioners. And I think that, I really think that at that point we should go ahead and at least try to clarify that. But I would say we should leave age alone and just go with grades. And also clarify whether this is just for, I would assume it's both private and public schools, homeschool. I think we should clarify that so that it's clear to the public. If you're homeschool, you qualify, because they, maybe they're being taught at 8th grade, but they're not going to 8th grade at Curtis. So things like that, it's just like to see it clarified. Thank you, Mayor.
Well said. Thank you very much. Next, I have Councilmember Wood.
Thank you, Mayor. So as far as age, I support going down to age 13 or like 8th grade, junior high type. That works for me. And I'm impartial as to whether we say 8th grade or age 13, whatever makes most sense to council. And actually, the point I was going to bring, which Councilmember Figueroa brought up, was we should make sure that this is, we throw the net out to capture not just the Curtis school system, but the private school systems and the home school systems. I think that's important that we make sure that that's clear. And then finally, I just wanted to touch on a discussion we had last time of extending this up through like community college age, 21, 22. I've thought about it because I thought it was a very interesting idea, but I'd like to step back from that and restrict it to high school age. And the reason being is because, one, we don't have a community college in our city, though we have a lot of people in our city who attend community college, and those people are all eligible to apply as adults on the commission if they want to. And so I see no reason to have our youth member extend all the way to 21 or 22. Even though I like the idea of them getting their level of support, I just figure they can apply as adults if they really want to. So that's my comments. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Next, I have Councilmember Boykin.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to underscore the expectation around intent. We're really capturing, in my view, the intent of what we would want folks to feel good about being able to be their best selves and then contribute in this space in these commissions to our city. To that extent, I am absolutely excited about looking at the age question in a manner of policy versus practice. The closest thing we had to policy has been pointed out that we had youth as pretty much undefined. Could have been, I guess, I'm not sure if that included infants, right?
If the mayor is willing to make an appointment, the interview committee is willing to interview, and council is willing to appoint.
Thank you very much. So in that regard, we would be at this point talking about at least changing policy to be more age definitive. And to that extent, I'm excited about the opportunity to capture intent, which is those young folks that really would be left out based upon additional information we've heard both from Council Member Grassi in particular, and as it relates to planning Public Works Director Eklund. So in that regard, want to be sure that that age is taken into account for at least starting at 13. And I'm also excited about the expectation of ensuring that both private school, homeschool is considered. So thank you very much, Councilmember Wood, about noting that, because we really are, again, trying to ensure we just got the best of what we offer here locally to then be able to prop up really well these commissions in a way that reminds people it's about us, it's for us, as well as moving them again to excellence. And then lastly, on the back end, I'm in favor also of making sure that it encompasses no more than folks that would be through their own opportunity to serve. Once they're done with high school, they would be done in terms of ample consideration. But for me, that also means if they were at the last opportunity in their mind to solicit consideration, and they only have that year, I'm of the opinion we do the work anyway. So it doesn't change how it is that we would prepare, what we would give them in terms of experience and what they have a chance to give us back, as long as we've got it confined that they can get at least a year in with our opportunity to actually support. I'm absolutely fine with that. So that's my comments, Mr. Mayor, and appreciate the opportunity to share.
Okay, thank you very much. Councilmember Figueroa.
Thank you, Mayor. It's just a thought. And again, a document like this, we can always amend if we see something where we just have a gap. But one of them that comes into mind is when we start talking, we were talking about 15 or whatever age, and now we're going down to the 13 potentially age, because they were participating in the drawing of the facility things, right? From your,
I think the specifically the recommendation was from the art teachers saying that those group had that thing, but I was just using it as a connection.
Oh, I see. Okay. And the reason I'm is 13 is young. Okay, and maybe it's relative. People can say they're really mature and all that, but in my mind, 13 is young. And I'm just thinking, and I don't know, is that a 7th grade? So we go as low as 7th grade, right?
Curtis Junior High is 8th and 9th.
Pardon me?
Curtis Junior High is 8th and 9th.
For a 13-year-old?
Enrolled at 13.
Okay, okay. And do we have any? Will we have anything? I don't know how to say it here, but anything that for parental rights or parents to be there. Obviously, they don't drive. Some of these, or in the evening, they can't just be walking there, getting their bike if it's dark and driving back. Those things that I think about safety and or the, for better words, escort of a parent or an adult for a 13-year-old to show up at a meeting. I just think that some of those things need to probably be thought out. And if nothing else, at least for the safety of how they should get there and how should they go back home.
Yeah, I think your comments are very well taken. And the only comment I would make is that I don't think we want to regulate parental supervision of the children. I think that, or young adults. I think that if a youth wants to participate as a commissioner, that they would certainly have the backing of their parents, and the parents would be making that commitment. It's like when my kids were growing up, if my kids wanted to participate in a program, it involved automatically the parent saying, I'm committing to support this or not support it, and that kind of made the decision for whether our kids participated or not. So I would hope, certainly there's always that exception, but I would hope that parents would, and candidates for the commission would have some conversation before they apply, for what it's worth.
If we can finish that under
Sure.
the floor, Mayor. Thank you. Well, it is a concern and how they show up and how they leave home. I don't want it to be an assumption from the parents. There's all kinds of parents that we're going to be, they drop them off and somebody's going to be responsible to take them back. I've seen it all. And so I really believe that has to be, I don't think that we need to be put into a liability. The other one is, I said it before in our last study session or somewhere where we talked about this, and that was that, maybe it was the retreat, I'm concerned about a 13, 14, or even 15, especially a 13, is coming and interviewing before a council committee to be appointed to that. And I think is quite big. I think maybe we should request the help of a committee at each school that would volunteer to interview that child, to be recommended to the council committee. And so I'm on that council committee for interviewing, and I would want a parent present. I wouldn't want to interview a child by themselves.
Okay, thank you very much. Councilmember Grassi.
Thank you, Mayor Fleming. I think that holistically in the conversation of youth, if we are deciding to have a youth seat, there are going to be accommodations that come with having a youth seat. And I think that we have to be clear and honest with ourselves if we're willing to make the accommodations to have a youth. And I think the will of this council was, I'm hearing that yes, and those are certain accommodations. As a mom, when I sign my daughter up for whether it's Girl Scouts or ballet or basketball for my son, I do so with the understanding at every age until them 18 that they are doing it with my permission, and that it is my onus to get them to and from their opportunities. There's lots of wonderful after-school opportunities that children participate in, that parents take them back into through and for and all around the town, and that's what we do, and that is part of having a child and an after-school activity. And I see the commission as a wonderful opportunity to any other after-school activity that a parent can sign a child up for. I think the age is important to not relate to a grade. I think there's a lot of schools that can participate in this. We have arts. Tacoma School of the Arts that has university-placed kids. We have Tacoma Online Academy. We have homeschool. We have co-op. We have private school. We have public school. So I really think I would caution us from using a grade versus I think an age is broader. Also, you have wonderful kids that are in Running Start that are still in high school that are 16, but they're also doing Running Start at TCC. So what grade do they see themselves in? I don't know what they would say, but they would say they were 16 or 17, I think, and they're doing both of those. So I think it should be flexible, and I think that we should be real and honest with ourselves as we're selecting to have a youth seat, that things like age and driving and all of those things, we're making accommodations to serve our youth in this way and give them an opportunity, and I think it's a valuable endeavor. I think it's worth the extra thought, and I would go towards the age versus the grade. So thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem McCluskey.
All right, thank you. From all the discussions I've had with a couple cities that has had youth on their art and culture or art, whatever. Sometimes they don't include the culture part, but we would like to do it here. They believe having a youth member is essential to the arts, to have that voice, and I believe it will be in the recruitment process. You'll be able to recruit the right youth. In the application process, just like when we recruit adults, we may not find a good fit, so we don't have to select from that pool. There is also, as Alicia, Councilmember Cunningham and I, and sounds like Councilmember Grassi and Councilmember Wood, we all are part of the scouting organization, and there's a consent form for the adults when they join an organization that they have to buy in on for that youth to even become a scout. And what Councilmember Figueroa alluded to is what could happen in real life with the particular youth that is on the council, because once the youth is transitioned from the parent to the commission, there is a fiduciary responsibility because it's their youth until you see that parent again, and then it exchanges the responsibility. What I have seen happen in a very rare occasion is sometimes the parents forget to pick the child up. So the commission needs to figure out what to do in that situation. So that could be a quandary, especially if the youth hasn't driven their car to the commission meeting. So some of those things probably would need to be clarified in that recruitment process and to what our action is going to be, so that the commissioners are informed and they understand their lane and what they need to do in that situation. We don't want to leave any youth stranded after a meeting. That would be horrible if that would never occur. I don't foresee it occurring. I'm not even going to go there. But besides all of that, having a youth on the Art and Culture Commission is strategic and viable, and will certainly add to whatever, especially in the beginning, the formation of the commission, to have a youth voice on it, to see how the art and culture is evolving in their eyes, because as my tenure with the youth over the last 40 plus years, they have very strong opinions, and sometimes they're very well researched. I'll end my comments there.
Okay, thank you. In the interest of continuing to move this conversation forward, I think we've heard from most, if not all, the council members some very compelling comments and arguments of why we should move in one direction or another. And just as a reminder, we're in study session, so we don't vote. But certainly would like to see if we can get a leaning of consensus, and not what I'm looking for is what you have to have, in an ordinance. As Councilmember Figueroa pointed out astutely, is you can always come back and amend if you feel it's not working, but what could you live with for now? Okay, so keep that in the back of your heads. I'm just going to put some things out there and I'm looking for your comments. So can I just live with this or can I not live with it? If that makes sense to everyone. So, the one I heard was, that we should be looking at junior high, high school, or equivalents, youth with no specific age definitions, but must be inclusive of the public, private, homeschool, special schools, but within that ill-defined, undefined age bracket. Can you live with that or can you not live with that? Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. The undefined age bracket, I wasn't quite clear.
What I mean,
is it?
In other words, there's no.
We were talking about the junior high
Correct.
age to the senior.
Correct.
So that's the. Okay,
That's why I said
I'm fine with
ill-defined.
that.
There's no
Just to
specific
clarify.
age
Right.
on there. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Councilmember Boykin.
Thank you, Mayor. I would just simply say that I can live with that because it does encompass the things I cared most about, which is ensuring that no one is unintentionally outside of that opportunity to contribute. The other scenario is apparently we've got that that policy in play right now, good, bad, and different. If the practice hasn't yielded fruit, we can be very intentional about whatever that might look like. Then the last thing I just really wanted to say, it could be a both and. Mostly because of hearing the remarks of Councilmember Grassi, where there could be youth that are matriculating in our junior college system or even our Head Start system, but they actually would qualify by age. So as long as it doesn't, again, interrupt people who are part of our community, who can give us their best and would be perceived as youth to us, I believe that's the most important thing that is intended for this council to put forward for our own opportunities. For goodness.
Thank you. Councilmember Figueroa.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't think that the Running Start folks would be left out because they have to be in high school to be part of Running Start.
That's why the age would work.
Yes, so they're automatically would be in. If they're saying they're in high school, they're in high school just because they're going to TCC. They're in high school. They have to be enrolled to be attending Running Start. So I think that they will be covered. I don't think we have to single that out. So that's my point on that.
How do you feel about that language, though? Is that something you could live with?
Oh, yes, I could live with it, all the above.
Thank you. Councilmember Wood.
Short answer, I can live with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Grassi?
Yep.
Thank you. Councilmember Cunningham? Okay. See how easy this was? Mayor Pro Tem?
Yes.
Mr. Attorney, do you
I know how to write an ordinance. I was actually going to suggest a different path, which is you take age 13 or the 8th grade up until high school, but you got to a same point. We can go either way, and it's council's ordinance at the end of the day.
I think you got your guidance.
We got that piece.
All right.
Thank you. I do want to just point out, just so this doesn't surprise us later. Right now, how it's written is because it mirrors all the other positions in any of our commissions, is the youth member would have to be a University Place resident, which means you could be a University Place school attendee and not be eligible for the commission. So that's just something that could fall through the cracks. We just need to make sure our eyes are wide open, that we understand that's what we're doing. But as long as we're
I don't think there's an issue.
We're okay.
Okay. All right. Let's.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question.
Yes, Councilmember
Mayor
Grassi.
Fleming, I'm so sorry. It's not about it's about the question of the process. Are we still moving on? Are we moving on, or are we still in here?
We were moving on. But go ahead.
Okay, because I didn't know if we were going down to item C.
Yes.
He's got a list.
Okay, process. I just want to ask a question about the process of interviewing these candidates, because I know we just filled that commission interview ad hoc committee. I would like to make, I know I heard Councilmember Figueroa said he wouldn't be comfortable with interviewing a youth, but I do think for the implementation of this commission, it would be, could one of either Councilmember Wood or Mayor Pro Tem McCluskey, someone that has been a part of this creation of this advisory commission, be a part of the interview process for this commission in its infancy as it starts. Does that make sense?
I would say not really, only because if you've got the commissioners there, are you saying you don't trust them?
No. I'm just saying if Councilmember Figueroa isn't feeling comfortable, as he said.
Point of order.
Okay.
I didn't say I was. I said we would need someone that is their parent or an adult in charge of them to be there.
Got it.
I don't think it's right for anyone to be interviewing a child by themselves.
I was just questioning if we were going to have
I just want to clarify that. So.
Okay. Thank you. Okay.
But yes, if there's going to be, is it going to be the council interviewing committee and no escort to that child, and it's just a child, then no, I would not feel comfortable. I would not want to be in that interview.
That would make sense. Okay, I heard someone raise their hand over here.
Jack has a...
No, you're not up on the dais. No, sorry.
Just real quick.
Go ahead.
One thing, it relates to that, but also some of the discussion about parental consent or whatever. So the youth position essentially would still follow the same guidelines as our volunteer policy. So it'd be similar to if somebody shows up at a park cleanup party. From a liability standpoint, we require that parental permission consent. So it would be treated the same way. So I think you would have that consent automatically.
Yeah, I think what I hear the council saying is they just want to be real crystal clear that if a youth applies to be interviewed, that there is a chaperone with that.
Yeah, I think that's fair, and then we can. I don't know that it needs to be in.
I don't think it needs to be in the ordinance.
In the ordinance, but in the
application.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Councilmember Figueroa.
It's just a clarification. I wasn't sure from the reading, but is this youth volunteer a voting member, correct?
Yes.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Thank you.
Okay, the next item here, moving on, is back to Councilmember Cunningham's earlier question, and that has to do with the number that would comprise the membership of this commission. And as it reads in paragraph 4, it says the number is 7. This section can be deleted. It's been left intentionally blank for discussion purposes. So I think it was between 7 and 9 is where this got left off.
I'm going from memory here, but I did the last study session. I heard 7, I heard 9, I heard 11, I heard combinations of 7 plus possibly the youth individual who might be a voting member or some other permutation of that. So as to call the question on all my law school exams go, discuss.
All right. So let's open this part up for conversation with regards to how the council's feeling in terms of how many members, and would the youth commissioner be a part of that number or a separate number from that? Yeah. I know Councilmember Cunningham, you kind of led that off, so I'm going to give it back to you to lead off again if you like, and then we'll go from there.
Thanks, Mayor. And it was only just for context purposes, because I think that all the things that we're talking about tonight mean nothing if we don't have a process for promoting and marketing this in the right way. So just like Councilmember Grassi was saying about, making sure the district's involved, because I had no idea that we opened it up for that. But I do notice that there's 7 members on the Park Commission. So we're modeling the traditional format, which means if we're going to grapple with like how many positions we hold, that wasn't the concept, I guess, at the time when you guys formed the Parks Commission, right? You just had 7, just like all the other commissions, and then let any one of those seats be for youth, or was there a cap?
No, that's correct. It was 7 positions, and 1 was marketed to try to have a youth position for one of those.
So then it would be 6 adult commissioners and 1 youth to make the 7?
Unless you can't get a youth, and then it becomes 7.
Then it becomes 7.
Mm-hmm.
But
that's how we treated it at least in the parks.
But my point that I'm trying to make is that the idea was for the park commission to be 6 adults and have the 7th member be a youth, correct?
Your code language says for the youth population, if feasible. Just quoting straight from the municipal code on that. So 6 adults plus 1 youth if feasible, but that still gets you 7.
Okay. And then Councilmember Boykin over here reminded me that, was there some conversation about us desiring to have an odd number?
There was a brief conversation about the desire to maintain an odd number of commissioners.
That was from me. Got it. Okay. That's all I have, Mayor. I just needed a point of clarification.
Councilman Figueroa.
Thank you, Mayor. I am recommending that we consider 9, 7 adult commissioners and 2 youth commissioners. And the reason I say 2, making it 9, because it should be odd, is that most young people would really, I think, would help. They would participate if they had a buddy or someone their age next that they can maybe recruit and say, hey, join me in this. And they probably will. It's just a better deal. And they're not by themselves in this adult environment. Mm-hmm. And so I'm recommending we consider 2 youth positions and 7 adult positions. That being said, I'd like to extend that 1 year position and a 2-year position. We had talked about in the retreat something about, what about somebody that wants to get in their 8th or 9th or 10th, and they said, man, this is something I'm not even going to go to get a doctorate in the arts or whatever. They maybe, so it'd be nice that, I don't know, I'm not really sure about the 2 years, but I want at least for us to think about it, and but certainly 2 1-year youth positions. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Wood.
Thank you, Mayor. So I'd like to think about what Councilmember Figueroa just brought up, the idea of having 2 youth members and a 9-person commission. So I'm not going to comment on that specifically. I was going to say I supported the idea of a 7-person commission. And honestly, in some way I still do, just because it keeps consistency across all our commissions. And I think once you start getting too big, it starts getting unwieldy. Mm-hmm. But I do have a question, and this might be for staff. If adults are elected for a 4-year term, mm-hmm. and youth are elected for a 1 or a 2-year term, by the way, I support 1, what happens if there isn't a youth member 1 year, an adult is elected? Now, does that exclude a youth participation for a period of 4 years?
You're essentially saying if a youth position is blocked pending an opening on the commission?
Correct. I guess, yeah.
Yeah. Under the current reading of the code, the youth position would be blocked until there's an opening. And then it's just a question of how frequent are your openings. Part of this is a little bit of also a chicken and egg, scenario too. How frequent is the problem occurring where there is a block for a youth member versus, some other particular problem? The proposal in here, what we also heard from council, and the egg part, if I'm continuing with the bad metaphor here too, is the other part that we heard from council was, all right, your youth member is also a 4-year term, has a regular voting member. However, the council had noted that there had been a perceived sustained lack of interest on the part of the youth member. So do you want to have a shortened term for that youth member, which is why in the draft language you have it as a 1 year. Thereby, you would have a block under either proposal, whether it's a full 4-year term or a 1-year term under the path. I think where your question is leading.
Okay. So, Jack, you had...
I do think that just with our experience on the Park Commission, when that has happened, it does take a youth off the table until you basically have an opening, and then you see if you can get someone. And so, which then, of course, it adds a little bit of like, oh, my term's up, but I want to continue. So a lot of times, if you have a good commissioner, there's the desire to keep going. So I think, and I would advocate whatever you do with the youth for an art commission, I think it'd be a good idea to mirror it with the Park Commission. So change whatever our policy. And there's, I think, Councilmember Figueroa's suggestion of having a set number of adult and then one or two. And actually, I agree with Councilmember Figueroa about the number. That could help us. I'm always worried about the how you recruit it, right? And so the more you can do to make the position enticing, I can see the merit of saying, you know, it may be less intimidating for a youth member to know, well, I have another youth member with me. But then you still have that core 7 in that scenario. So I think that could address a lot of the problems we've encountered in the past with Park Commission, how it's written with the youth.
Okay. Councilmember Figueroa.
Thank you, Mayor. Just real quick on this, and that is, again, that's why we revisit things, but I think we should revisit the parks. And I'm sorry it's offline here, Mayor, but we're talking about years, and we're cleaning things up. We're trying to clean this up based on something that may be messed up, meaning I think that 4 years for a young person on the parks is a long time, and maybe that's the reason why. Maybe we should relook that and say, let's mirror both of these. I like what you said, but let's correct the parks to say 1 year, you know, and maybe it should be dedicated 5 adults to youth and dedicated for youth. They don't get filled. You only got 5 park members. Understanding that, and I said this before, in either one, the commission can always commission a ad hoc committee to help them look into things if they wish, to add from the community for a short period of time and not be committed for a long time. A lot of people like that. So anyway, that's my comment. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments? Okay, what I hear on the table for the sake of moving this forward a little bit is I've heard a recommendation of a 7-member commission. The other is a 9-member commission with 7 adults, 2 youth, with a 1-year position and a 2-year position for the youth. Let's take the 9-member first. Again, looking for consensus, not a vote. So I'll just go down the aisle here, or down the dais here. Give me your 10 cents feelings on it, and we'll just kind of roll from there, okay? So I'm going to start, I started last time to my left, so we'll start to my right this time with Councilmember Grassi. A commission of 9 with 7 adults, 2 youth, with rotating years, 1 year for one and 2 years for the other. Can you live with it or not live with it?
Yeah, I can live with it.
Okay. Councilmember Wood.
I can live with it, and I would also support mirroring that with parks.
Okay. Councilmember Figueroa.
I could live with it, and I'd like the clarification on the 2-year, 1 year, because I think that's important. I think after hearing some testimony here, I think that I go back to just 1 year for both versus 2. But anyway, we should probably clarify that. But yes, I can live with it.
Okay, right now we're looking at 1 and 2.
Okay.
And
I can live with
it. We can always amend later.
Okay.
Okay. Councilmember, who wants to go down there? Boykin?
My apologies.
I want to make sure everyone's included here.
It was because of how you were looking at me and smiling so wonderfully. That's what got me giggling. But I absolutely can live with it. I think it's a great suggestion, by the way.
Okay. Councilmember Cunningham?
Agree with my colleagues. I can live with it. And I agree with Councilmember Wood. We might as well model this for parks as well.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem?
I concur we should model this for parks. I am leaning towards the 9. However, I would, especially when we're going out the door with this and the history of recruiting youth on our commissions, we should place it at 1 year. And then see how it goes, and then maybe revisit that. And we can always extend one of the positions for 2, but typically they're flexible. They aren't as flexible in the scheduling as far as being committed for 2-year intervals, but they could reapply for the second year if that is the case. as a seated commissioner. So for renewal for the seat. So I would go with 2 youths, because I concur with Councilmember Figueroa that the youth will be more comfortable coming to the commission meetings if they have a peer that they can do sidebar conversations with and talk off the commission with the ideas that are transpiring. And so 9, 2 youth, 1 year for the youth.
Okay. So hearing that we've got consensus at least for the 9, for the 1 year and the 2 year, my recommendation would be that we put this on the docket, and at the end of 1 year circle back and see where we are. We can always amend it at that time and then kind of continue on if we need to go with 1 year, 1 years. But at least to keep this thing moving forward, the consensus I got is people could live with, at least for now, unless I misread everyone here on the dais, that they could live with the 9 1 year, or 9 7 adults, 2 youth, 1 year 1 position, 2 year for the other position. But I hear what the Mayor Pro Tem is saying, and maybe we should put a caveat that we'll put an asterisk on this and bring it back to council for review at the end of 1 year. I saw him.
Oh, okay. You have good peripheral.
I'm just pausing for the second. Yeah, I do.
You do.
Councilmember Wood.
So, Mayor, the question you had asked if I could live with the 1 year, 2 year, and yes, I can live with it, but if I had a preference, I'd just go with 1 year. And I think there's, well, never mind, I'm not going to speak for any other council members, but I think there might be the support for that as well.
Okay. I just don't want to keep going around and around in circles on this one. So.
And the one caution I would have is I wouldn't want to stick in the ordinance the actual come back in a year provision. We can administratively note that for our future look ahead council docket.
Yep, please do. Okay. Does that answer all the questions in this?
The only other question I would have from council, because I can take with what council gave and come back with a revised ordinance, hopefully for final vote, is while it's open, are there any other changes that council is looking at for this?
We could amend this.
You could totally
all
tweak
night
it,
long.
but I would love for no surprises when this comes back for passing.
I think we've had really good dialogue on the dais. I think, tonight you came looking for guidance on it. The council's provided that. I would say let's put this in and move it forward for a hearing.
Yeah. Okay. What do you got, Jack?
Okay.
You got something? Speak now.
Do you have the last minute comment there, Jack, or we'll move to the next item?
The only thing I struggle a little bit with recruitment and flexibility on the council. It may be better just to say it's a 1 or 2 year appointment, and then it would open it up for while you're doing your interviewing. If 2 years appropriate, they're interested in that, or if 1 year is so that might be a tweak to allow it to have the bigger. But that just once again, I like anything that's more flexible as compared to less flexible.
I think what the council was looking for on that, if I understood it, was they were looking for continuity. So if you had 1 or 2 and you have 2 candidates and they both say, I just want 1 year, well, then you've lost it. Or 2 candidates go, we both want 2 years, well, then you've lost it also. Or if you have a 1 year and 2 year, then going forward into the future, then you have this alternating that takes place. So there's continuity among the youth on the commission. At least that's how I interpreted that in my head. Did I get that wrong?
Yeah.
That's fine.
Okay.
No, I think you got it wrong.
Okay. Councilmember Figueroa.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with Councilmember Wood in listening to comments. I thought that, and that's why I switched, because I thought it was a good idea, and that is just to go to just 1 year. And like somebody said, I forget, one of the council members said, if it ends and they're still around, they want to reapply, just like other members, they can do so. Most likely will get it. The odds are very good. Okay. So, that's what I heard from most folks.
Okay. Can y'all live with 1 year for each person?
I'm sorry, you're revisiting things again?
Yes, we are.
I can certainly live with it.
Okay. Yes? Yep. Yep, okay. 1 year each position.
That's simpler.
All right.
We're good. Mayor?
All right.
Oh,
Are you
not quite.
kidding me?
No, sir. I
Go
promise
ahead,
I'm not.
Councilman Boykin.
Thank you so much.
Final word.
Yeah, final word, because it's relative to Mr. Eklund's comment about the consistency. And there had been more than a few council members to bring up the fact that maybe what we should do is also mirror this to the Parks Commission. So I just wanted to make sure if there was anything that has been noted, I think that's been a strong enough concept that I've heard 3 or 4 times from different council members tonight.
Okay, thank you. And I think we will do that.
Okay.
The hour is now 8:45. We've got 15 minutes left. We've got 3 items left on our agenda. There's no way we're going to complete it.
Mayor, we have 45 minutes left per the agenda.
45 minutes? We're still not going to finish. No, never mind. We'll see how far we get.
Yeah.
I thought it was 9.
Can we talk about travel policy? 'Cause I can- No.
When did we start doing that? We're changing.
We did that.
Well, shame on the mayor for doing that. I'll talk to him tonight. All right, let's move to item number 11, the council travel policy. We have our city attorney, Mr. Kaiser.
All right. Good evening once again, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. Matt Kaiser, your friendly city attorney. Council travel policy. This is back from this time last month, which council had expressed a desire to revisit its travel policy. I unfortunately noticed while I was preparing for tonight, a lot of the red line changes actually are not documented. They were on my Word version, but they weren't in the packet. So we'll make sure that I'll have to call those out for the benefit of council. What we heard at the last travel policy, or last discussion on the travel policy, council expressed a broad desire to amend the travel policy. However, it took 2 different approaches on what it wanted to see on the travel policy. So when at the end of the council meeting, we said we would prepare 2 versions, an A version and a B version, which you have in front of you tonight in your packet. In the A version, this is very creatively named. In the A version, we had identified, council had identified a number of travel events and such that it wished to attend of broad interest and broad concern for all involved, and identified a number of examples such as the AWC annual conference, the NLC conference, the Chamber of Commerce conference, as well as a number of conferences which were necessarily incidental to those commissions and other outside groups that council members had attended. The A version, and like I said, unfortunately, the red lines got lost when they got entered into the packet. The text is there, it's just not highlighted as red. Is contained, if those of you who have the digital version of the packet on page 109, it's reflected in text of proposed 4.3.2 with a paragraph beginning subject to available funds in addition to the funds. For those who have that version, I'll slow down even though I know I'm going fast because of the time. The idea behind that was to ultimately future-proof your travel policy if council wanted to adopt an A version without having to have the discussion every time that the travel policy would need to come up and say which conferences are we going to be looking at and having a vote on conferences for 2026, 2027, 2028, et cetera. So to create it broad enough that you could have that together with a modest bump or modest increase in the individual council member allotments. The former version or the current version rather, as I recall, has it at, I can't remember if it's 2,000 or 2,500 for the mayor pro tem and each council member, increasing that to 3,000, leaving the mayor's amounts unchanged. And then on the council initiated, adding the language or such other sum as council may appropriate via budget. So that way, again, for future proofing concerns. The second approach that we heard from council was let's take the travel budget and identify, here's the broad swath. So we pulled the travel budget for 25-26. In 2026, your council travel budget, according to our finance department, is $128,500 with a couple different sub buckets. So we creatively took $128,500, divided it by 7, rounded down to the nearest 1,000, which came out to an even $18,000. So giving each individual council member an $18,000 allotment, consistent with the direction that we talked about. Within that overall 128.5 were what we've identified as currently the individual budgets, the NLC and City Summit budget, and then what we've previously referred to as the council initiated. So that's where you get that proposed amount at $18,000. 2 other changes that as we were making the rounds internally prior to council action that I wanted to highlight for council attention. One is reflected in the text. The other is a discussion point. Actually, three. I take that back. Three. Two are in the text. The first one that's in the text is you'll see in both versions there's a paragraph beginning for internal control purposes, the city manager. One of the issues that our finance department had flagged was somebody has to sign the paperwork on this. And so a reflection that the city manager is the signer of the paperwork associated with council travel. However, with the express carve-out, that the city manager doesn't actually get to decide whether this is a good idea or not. That is consistent with our prior discussion up to each individual member of the council, just simply identifying that the documentation is proper in order, et cetera. The second change, which is reflected in the text of both, is that there is a retroactive clause. As some of you know, their travel booking is currently underway for a number of conferences. So this would, if you're acting consistent with either policy that council's coming forward with, everything would ultimately be still retroactively, as long as it's consistent with whatever policy that council adopts, it's still consistent. The one change that is not highlighted in the text, however, our finance department did flag it or had flagged for me, which I'm sharing with council, is in our current policies, there's language in there that for council member report outs, both before and after certain out-of-state travel in terms of reports. One of the things that they shared with me is with a change in policy, the state auditor's office will take note of any legislative changes that we do make, and they will be asking, have we complied with our current policy? So as a reminder, if we are making changes for out-of-state travel, that if you anticipate doing out-of-state travel, they're consistent with the policy, that should be reported saying, hey, I'm going out-of-state to insert conference here, and a follow-up report after the fact, because that is something that the auditor will be taking a look at in response to any legislative action that council has. So with that, I will once again catch my breath, submit myself to questions, and turn the matter back over to council.
Okay. Thank you, Matt, for that report. Before I open for council comments, I just want to say thank you for the work that you've done on this one. I know this is a tough one. I personally like the second recommendation versus the first because my personal preference, mayor really shouldn't be receiving anything more than any other council member when it comes to expenses for travel. So I like that proposal. But with that said, certainly open for comment, questions. See where we go with this one. Questions, Councilmember Wood.
Thank you, Mayor. So just for the record, I like version B, but I'd like to make it a version B2, which is future-proofing it.
Yeah.
Which instead of putting in a specific dollar value based on the budget of this year, we just say that whatever budget the council approves for travel will be divided by 7 and allocated accordingly, so that we don't have to revisit this in 2, 3, 5 years saying, hey, this is what we got to do.
From a staff perspective, I think the staff would be agnostic on that. I think that's a discussion amongst the 7 of you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Sounds good to me. But okay, Mayor Pro Tem.
Hi, I concur with Councilmember Wood, so that we don't have to keep revisiting this. We'll have a set budget that the council will approve beforehand. Each council member going into the budget cycle for the year will more than likely have a pretty good idea which conferences they are interested in attending. And typically, if there's a one-off that comes off, I think there is a safety net where that council member needs to disclose where they're going and also come back with a report back for the value of that conference.
Love it. Councilmember Figueroa.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, in conjunction with, the future, and you don't know how, 128 today's time, monies, but also the 18, we all have experienced, most of us experienced trips, and we know, I know for a fact that some of these are, $5,500, mm-hmm. and it's growing. I remember when they were $3,800, $3,400. Now they're 55 plus, and that's not without any additional stuff that you can add to some of these conferences. So, I thought we had also discussed that maybe we approve certain conferences that we would approve that council members can go to, and not really say, well, we're allotting this much money per member or whatever, because that really, I think you're lucky if you make it 3, and that's not counting the AWC. If you count the AWC, I think you can fit 2, which is one National League of Cities, and it doesn't say, but I would assume the summit. So I think that it doesn't include the Chamber of Commerce, which I can tell you from years that I've attended, and I think some of us have too, that's probably one of the most valuable ones, because it has all our peers in Pierce County, leaders, not elected, non-elected. Out of all of them, that's an exceptional one, and it's not on there. And I think that the 18,000 doesn't, I was just telling you, doesn't cover. It'll cover 2, and then yeah. So I think that we should approve what conferences that we say this is valuable to the city UP and to our council, and then approve that and say, well, you know, we approve a budget, whatever that cost may be when we're there. Yeah, I mean, I even gave an example last time when we talked about this, that things happen, and because if you average that out and you're looking at 3, and I would assume, I'm not clear, that this includes, you know, if you want to go to NATOA or even NLC committee. So if you want to go to the congressional thing and the summit and the Washington associations and maybe another advisory thing, you're not going to make it. Sorry to say, it's just not there. And I think that what we should do is say, this is what we'll support, because we think, based on all the times we've seen and what most of us have been to, they're valuable to our council members and to what we're bringing back to the community. So I thought that's what we were leaning on the last time we were showing all this, not so much this. I think this is a danger. One thing, what I was going to say is, I have an example like Councilmember Boykin, who had an incident where his travel increased substantially by almost $1,000 on a plane ticket because he had to move the date. And I mean, that just blows that away real quick. And so I would say back to the thought of, let's approve what we believe is good. And if you want to go to anything outside of those conferences, then you come back to the council and make a request, and we approve it.
So, Matt, for point of clarification, I thought in our last conversations we had where you would look at the conferences that the majority of the council attends, figure out what that number was, divide it by 7, and you come up with a number. And then for those one-off conferences like the Washington to Washington that Councilmember Figueroa has pointed out, or the leadership conference for NLC, those were and NATOA, those are one-offs that there would be funding available for those, but it'd still have to have a justification of value to the city and a report once that person came back. But the funding would be available for that.
You would still have to have the report out to council for any of that travel. At the end of the day, it's fundamentally, how do you want to show your work math-wise for this particular scenario? Recognizing the other piece of the puzzle is your biennial budget, where you have the conversation, you know, every other September, October timeframe, where you say, how much do we want to put in the travel budget to accommodate the various anticipated conference expenditures that are coming up with budget adjustments along the way. With that difference in math approach, the A version takes those sort of those conferences that you had identified, you know, the NLCs, the NATOAs, and the like, and takes that as essentially a given, because councils previously has recognized the value of that. Or if you're a member of, you know, identifying a couple members of the council where you're on an NLC committee. Council has identified that NLC committees are of value, or at least that's been the message so far. We'll fund those as a matter of right, consistent with the overall budget. The A version goes one step further and says there's a little additional sum, so maybe you've identified that there's a one-off conference that's not part of that. I'm trying to come up with an example, and it's later, that you could go to. The B version essentially took the travel budget and divided it by 7. And the 3 different pots of money that comprised the travel budget that our finance had identified were the individual budgets. Like the 2,000, the 7,500 for the mayor and the like. The NLC City Summit has its own separate pot, and then the council initiated has the third and final pot. And that got us to the 128,500 that I had referenced earlier.
So is it possible, I hate to do it to you, but to go back and create a third hybrid of giving up the money but making it clear for those one-offs that those are funded, and here's the criteria for the funding, that A, they would be funded, and B, it requires that report back when the person returns?
You already have the report back language, so that we don't have to add that.
Okay. So my question then is, can you create that third hybrid with that?
That's kind of the A version, if I'm understanding where you're going with this.
Well, yes and no.
Okay.
Because the A version gives the mayor more spending money than the others, if I read this report.
You can change that number.
I mean, I just believe it should all be the same for all 7, and then you go forward. That's why I said, could you blend those?
Yeah, if there's a desire to make all the council members' numbers identical with an increase on the A version, because I think you're already there with the A version, and just adjust that it's currently 3,000 in the draft. If you wanted some higher number, we could figure out what that higher number is.
Well, I think you've got the right number in the B version. So if you move that number from B to A, but then have that caveat to cover those one-offs, I think we're there.
I'm not sure, and I know Boyd could. Yeah, I'm not entirely sure that you're there. Just because what you're suggesting with that version, with the split there, is you're looking at potentially 18 plus more on top of that.
For the one-offs.
The 18 under the B version is for everything. It's the one-offs. It's the special.
But for the sake of conversation, if you took the 18 and said that's for everything, and then for the one-offs, as Councilmember Figueroa pointed out, that you have whatever additional funding set aside somewhere else to cover that. So if they needed to go to the AWC leadership training program, or if they needed to go to NATOA, that we're not going to say, no, you can't go.
Yeah.
I mean, those are recognized programs. That funding would be available not out of that 18,000.
No.
But it could be done and then go forward from there.
Well, we can take another look at that if there's additional comments from council before we go back through and look at it. Like I said, I think you're probably already there with the A version and just increasing that number a bit more from what I'm hearing. But we can, we can circle back. And I want to make sure we have everybody's input too before we do anything.
So let's hear more input. We'll start with Councilmember Cunningham.
All right. Nope.
Boykin.
Thank you, Mayor. The challenge that I'm hearing that I think has been interpreted, and I would say inaccurately, is in version B, where there simply is an individual, there's a sum that's just going to be divided by 7 members. And I think the challenge is this budget was presumably last year's budget?
It's the current biennium budget.
Okay. So last year's travel is what I'm alluding to. And so my point is there are people who didn't use travel, and there are people who did use travel, and there's people who use travel that much more significantly. So if you're just going to take this sum arbitrarily and divide it by 7, you're going to miss the opportunity of when you're really trying to be responsive to the expectation, which is providing the travel support for the representation of the city in the spaces in which we value. And I know that that was the intent in version A, so I wanted to make sure I underscored that, which I sort of think that's what you were alluding to when you were saying, well, maybe if If we only divide it by 7, we just might not be there. But my point here is, in the spirit of A, where we are really trying to identify the conferences that are most impactful, that people would expect to be participating in, that's the spirit of it, even if we haven't got it all in there. And you could conceivably, based upon how the versions are, you could conceivably have more monies that have been supported for a total council intentionality going forward after this policy is done with A, as opposed to it being 128,000 plus, is what I'm saying. So I wanted to just make sure that distinction is there, because I believe the mayor's intent is to ensure that there, by position, there isn't any more opportunity to utilize and be supported by travel funds in our official capacity than anybody else, whether it's Mayor Pro Tem or council members. And in that regard, I just don't see how anything other than version 8 takes care of that. And if that's incorrectly, I wanted to just make sure that you affirm that for me.
Yeah.
I think version A is closer to that scenario.
Version A was trying to capture that statement, even if the actual numbers that you see in the initial language don't quite line, and exactly. We can change that number. We can go and look at the budget. There's $3,000, with the exception of the mayor's pot in there, which are currently placeholder numbers, but we can take a look at the math, and that may be that those numbers get increased after we take another look at the math. But that was the general intent of where we were trying to go with A.
I'm clear, and I definitely wanted to affirm that the both version scenario where the verbiage at the end is important, so that there's just accountability to our fiscal practices and policy. But I wanted to say I absolutely would be in favor of version A for the reasons that I've tried to articulate, but I believe it supports individual council expectation in all capacity, and it does also, in the spirit of what the mayor is alluding to, provide support such that it's not skewed by position or denying anybody by position on council.
Well said.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Figueroa.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you. I think that is a better version of what we had talked about. And I'd just like to add what's customary. We all know this. I'm not saying anything different, and I've said it before. What's customary is the National Congressional Conference. Mm-hmm. Customary is the National League of Cities Summit. Customary is the Associated Washington Cities Annual Conference. Just to be clear, the Associated Washington Cities Finance Conference that's held every year. The Chamber of Commerce, Washington, and of course the NLCO committees that's being served on, as customary is the NATOA conference. I think that it allows people to pick, as you've seen. And thank you, Councilmember Boykin, for saying that, because it is. The 128 reflects who went. Barely half went half the time, so it reflects a really low value there. If there was more interest, you couldn't fit that in. Well, let's put it this way. Then that's why I said earlier the 18,000 would never fit in any of this because of that. It doesn't add up. So A would be best with a clarification that if there was outside of the national conference, congressional conference, and the summit. Okay, there are two. But then I know in the past, it hasn't been lately, some of those committees that, the NLCO committees that we have 2 council members, they are sometimes held in different areas outside of these 2 conferences. And if that happens, I can see that, which is different. And then I'm not if you're not a representative, if you're a representative only, this says if you're a representative of NATOA or of, I would say, representative of, it's not clear here, but it should have said, based on what you're trying to convey here, of RCC, then you get to go to NOTOA. But I think that, it should be anyone that has the willingness to go to a NOTOA conference. That being said, it's and those are the customary ones, okay? Outside of that, let's have an approval. The other thing, too, I'm not too concerned based on 16 years being on the council. You just don't get, even this last one in the congressional, it's only 3 of us, not 7. So you can see that this is not where all 7, I think once or twice where we saw like 6 council members go to the summit, NLC summit. That was probably the most attended one from this council. And an AWC, which is probably normal for most cities. But anyway, but at least if council members want it, you have to add. I'll go for A with that clarification. And as far as the 3,000, just make it all 7 council members, mayor pro tem, and council members have this non-covered travel of $3,000. I'm not sure what that means, non-covered travel, but yeah.
That would be if you have identified a conference that might be a particular interest to you or other session. Maybe it's parking reimbursement for,
right,
other official type duties.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay.
But it provides some degree of additional travel.
So let's clarify. So when we attend the luncheon or dinners, like with Pierce County Economic Development, thing, is that non-covered travel where that money?
That would be non-covered. That would come out of that specific pot.
Okay, so now we have an idea.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you, Mayor.
You're welcome. Councilmember Wood.
Thank you, Mayor. So my thought on this is that a real control measure for this is how we set our annual budget. And rather than put into ordinance the specific events that we're going to be part of, I'll go back to say I'm now leaning back towards supporting version A, because for the reasons that have been stated here already. But rather than try and list every possible conference, thank you, that's the word for today, every possible conference that we would want to attend in the ordinance, we can just say as part of the annual budget process, we'll identify what conferences we are choosing to put in that first block. We budget accordingly, because we have to make a budget anyway, and then have that extra dollar value for the non-programmed funding. And I do also agree with you that I think all 7 should be the same, whether it's 3,000 or 7,000, whatever. So that kind of future-proofs this for going forward.
Okay, so we've got kind of a weak consensus here for version A with some changes. Anybody else want to weigh in on this before we move forward? Okay, seeing that there's none, I think what we'll do is we will lean into version A with some of those recommendations that have been made by council.
Yeah, I had a light bulb go off on the actual drafting that we'll bring back with a future resolution.
Okay. All right. We're making some progress tonight. This is good. All right. Next is design standards. We have City Manager Mr. Suggs.
Thank you, Mayor. Council, this was a topic that was going to be covered at the retreat. We ran out of time, so I'll try to make this quick. And Kevin's going to join me, Kevin Brisky, Community and Economic Development Director. So, design standards, why are we bringing this thing forward to you? The amount of interest by developers to develop in University Place is, we all know that this is a place where folks, developers and builders want to build, where people want to move to, thus developers want to build places for them to move into. And our Regional Growth Center, which the council approved a number of years ago, 480 acres, 83 opportunity properties that are underdeveloped or undeveloped, those are prime properties to get redeveloped with buildings. And what gets built on those properties should reflect the aspirations of the council and the community, not a formulaic approach which you see across the country, up and down the West Coast, in the Puget Sound, where every place looks like every other place. University Place is unique. It's a community of character and charm. We think that the architecture, I believe that the architecture should enhance that charm and character of the community. And therefore, I think I'd like to see the design standards opened up, and let's take a fresh look at this. So we can get ahead of this before the buildings are built, because once the buildings are built, the window's closed, there's no more discussion on that. The opportunity has closed on that. And these buildings, which are going to house the future population that comes in to University Place and the Growth Center, those buildings are going to be visible, very visible from the corridors that people drive down and walk down, because these are typically going to be larger multifamily buildings, as we know. So let me just go to the next slide. Now, what are we facing? We have the legislature. Legislature is not making it easy for us. They've stripped a lot of our authority to get better buildings, but we believe that there's a way to still meet the laws, but do it to create the uniqueness and that character and charm that I think that the council and the community will want to see. And we're going to want to start with that discussion. We'll get to that in a second. I mentioned the increased demand. Developers come to the counter at Kevin's department almost every week, and they're asking about, they're kicking around ideas, kicking the tires and seeing about feasibility in this or that property. We want to get to them early, but we want to communicate what your aspirations are so Kevin and I can sit down with them and say, yeah, welcome. We'd like you, this is what our vision is. Is this something that you can meet? And what's interesting is that, I'll just segue on this. We've had some conversations with developers, and they actually want to build beautiful buildings in UP. They don't want to build the standard building. They want to do something special. But we need to get to them early enough so that before they spend hundreds of thousands of dollars on design and all their plans are drawn. So that's why we're here. Then the next slide. Here's what I recommend. We want to, we think that the codes need to be revised, and I mentioned that design. The comp plan, that'll be revised as needed. The more important element is the zoning code, where the design codes live. They reside in a couple sections of the zoning code. And then there's some tools we can get into later on, programmatic EIS. We can help incentivize and make things easier for developers to do better, to give us better. And then we're going to need some outside expertise, obviously, because we only have so much staff and we don't have our own in-house architects and some other expertise. But we can talk about that later. Next steps, and this is the very last slide. What I'd like to do with Kevin is to come back to you with a process and a budget on how to get this accomplished. And then there's, I think, a fairly significant education process and a visioning process on what the council wants to see. And you're going to want to have your commissions involved. You're going to want the public involved because it needs to reflect the aspirations of the community at large. And then, of course, the timeline. So that's it. I just want, this is what I was going to present to you at the, what we were going to present at the retreat. Nothing more than that. It was just a first touch on this. But we believe that design standards need to be reopened. It's been 2 decades. And a lot of building has gone around across the country. We now see the formulaic building that every developer is doing. And if we do nothing, I think we'll see that, and then the windows will have closed on us, and we'll have what we have. Every place will look like every other place. We're different. I think we need to be different, and it's an opportunity to step forward and start with the discussion with the council and your commissions. So with that, I'll just stop talking.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Sugg, for that report. Questions, comments from council? Mayor Pro Tem.
I'm not happy with what I see, and I certainly am not happy with what I see in our sister cities. I would like, as you alluded to have some beautiful buildings that have a Northwest feel and style to it. What is a Northwest feel and style? That is something we need to figure out. I Googled it, kind of went down that bunny trail, and it's like mid-century modern, you know, a craftsman style, you know, some buildings that you see at the turn of the century down in Old Town, you know, there's that. So what is that style and that design that is something that's going to reflect the Northwest style, as well as get something that we are proud of in our city, that encourages the beautification and is a statement of our community values, or community engagement. And we had seen some examples of Paris and the Netherlands. As in my travels, I've seen all sorts of different buildings that have stood the test of centuries and still are considered beautiful and attractive enough to attract tourists and life. And that's probably the visioning that I would like to, you know, approach. And I do know from an artistic perspective, there is and when I was in junior high, Disney came out with a movie. I don't know if any of you are kind of my age or been in California, but we had seen it, you know, a few times. And it was Pluto and Donald Duck, you know, talking about the classical elements of artistic design and how that is evolved from plants and flowers, and how we view our organic lifestyle and how we live within these organic features that also have a mathematical design element to it. So when a flower pops up, chrysanthemum, which is very complex, has a mathematical design that centers on our brain as beautiful. I know, and it's been proven that that is a sensitive element that when we look at it, we don't know sometimes the reason why it is beautiful, but it's beautiful to us because it has those classical design elements that are driven down with these mathematical designs that have the evolution in our organic nature. There is also, even if there's chaos within the organic organism, there is a systematical design approach in that chaos. So I would like to figure out crack that nut, and because where we're going now, I don't like that direction. So if we can move the ship and change it, and you can come with some educational sessions to the city council, maybe to give better direction, and to figure out, how much money do we really want to spend on this, or if we want to go down. What in your mind is the process to get from what we have now to more beautiful buildings within our city that will stand the beauty test of time?
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Councilmember Boykin.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you. It really is. Thank you, City Manager Suggs, for this report. I would have loved to have had this opportunity to have a much longer conversation from the dais during the retreat. Just as an FYI, but I do appreciate the opportunity that comes in front of us this evening, because I absolutely do believe that the context of what we get a chance to do differently, you can't ignore why it's coming to the forefront more intentionally tonight. We are facing legislative mandates. I would submit to you that a number of municipalities and public servants and elected that we know have expressed that as part of our environment, whereas it clearly feels that we are losing our ability, our latitude, our authority to manage our cities in a way that we believe might be best for our residents, our citizens that we serve. And this is just one more way in which it's creeping into that space. And so I am appreciative of that pressure to encourage us to take a look at what we can control, which is the ability to take a look at our own design standards. Regardless of what our vision may be, if it's 7 different visions, what I believe is that what we would like to see expanding or enhancing our design standards at a minimum gives us a much better chance to get there, even if we don't, again, have 7 different visions. But it's absolutely critical, in my view, if Mayor Pro Tem's comment about she doesn't like what she's seen, we have good, better, and different projects that were within our design standards. And what I'd like to do is ensure that we position those that are invested in wanting to be part of the best opportunity to help get to University Place the way we envision it as council members and as the council collectively, ideally, that we've done what we can by ensuring that we've provided really responsive design standards. So I'm excited about that, particularly when we have a chance to recognize where it's coming from, which is this very clear national crisis that we have in housing. So people are doing what they can across the continuum to try to encourage a much larger housing supply. In that regard, the last thing they may be concerned about is how University Place or any other municipality sees its ability to talk about its own design standards. But if we do that, we can do it both and. We can both support and be part of the process and the solution, but also be very intentional about the uniqueness of University Place and the way we like to see it continue to be built out. The last thing I would want to say based upon the opportunity here is, because we would be intentional about deciding what is most important in terms of impacting these buildings that will certainly last most in a number of people's lifetimes, we want to be in the best position to have put forth the product that we can be proud of, even once we leave here, whether that is, by heaven forbid, some of us wants to move out of University Place, or whether it's folks who have a belief in, as I do, that you move to another place of glory. So I'm excited about at least being able to do it. I do agree with you that it would be ideal for us to see a budget based upon what that might look like. But I am wholeheartedly invested in that as a real possibility, because I want to be sure that what we're doing in terms of our digital engagement is be in a position to educate other council members, educate the commissions that we want to serve and lead, as well as our public, who I really believe are invested in continuing to have University Place appear as a jewel that it is. So that's what I have in terms of my comments, Mr. Mayor, and thanks again, as always, for giving me an opportunity to share.
Okay, thank you very much. Councilmember Wood.
Thank you, Mayor. And in the interest of time, I'll keep mine to 35 seconds or less. You can time. All right. First, I wholeheartedly support this effort. Thank you, Steve, for your vision and leadership on this one and bringing it forward. I totally agree this is something we need to look at. 2, with the actions of the state. For example, we did a housing action plan about half a dozen years ago that the state has basically legislated over parts of it already, just by their mandates. What I'd recommend we do as part of our public education is that early on we bring in our state legislators, 28th LD and anybody else we can get, AWC, and have them see what we're doing and try and, by engaging them, prevent them from, mandating concrete block housing 5 years from now. But I think we should have a program where the council members especially, with support from staff, have a formal engagement program. Thank you, Mayor. That's my comments.
Okay, thank you very much. Councilmember Grassi.
Thank you, Mayor Fleming. I want to echo, thank you, Manager Sugg, for bringing this forward and the initiative and the creativity that you're bringing with this. I completely support it. I am a beautification fanatic in the natural sense and in beauty in our buildings. And one of my earliest memories of cityhood was walking out into my living room and seeing 4 different styles of light post toppers in my living room because my dad was trying to give advice on which green and which style you guys were debating. And it was that level of detail that I drive down the streets and I look at our beautiful lampposts and say, 30 years later, those are some beautiful lampposts and they fit right in, and it's worth the detail, it's worth the effort. So I am completely on board with 2 feet and my whole heart to jump in with this council and look at how we can continue the beauty of this city responsibly. I agree that I'm cautiously optimistic about how we can navigate mandates, but I also am very interested in what this would look like for a budget moving forward to explore this idea, but would like to explore it. So thank you, Mayor.
Okay. Thank you. Councilmember Figueroa.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, this proposal is nothing more than due process. Every city knows that we need, and we've done it ourselves. We go through comprehending.
Motion to extend. Mayor?
Okay. I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt just for a second. I need to entertain a motion to extend. Would you all be willing, because we do need to get through the final item tonight, and this is an important topic. Much to my chagrin, would you all be willing to stay till 10 o'clock? If we finish early, we could adjourn earlier. Fair enough?
I make a motion to extend the meeting, Mayor, to 10 p.m.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. Okay.
So this is just a natural process. I don't see this as anything special or out of the ordinary, out of the box. We do this, we should be doing it with fees. We do it with a comprehensive plan because we're told to. We do it with zoning. We do it with all kinds of things where we kind of revisit and say, is this still valid? And we make changes. This is no different. We have gone through an extensive processes through the years. Not too long ago, we just finished district planning that included some kind of design standards. Where this is maybe, when do you do it? It's really the question. Is it now? I think it is, only because we've heard it from different council members, including me, that some of the buildings that have gone up weren't exactly the design or the beauty, aesthetically pleasing, well, have I heard that word before, to some of our neighborhoods. You take, just to be blunt, you take the one out there by James Center, you take the one that was maybe proposed, but that's being changed and improved. There's some other ones, so it's just blah, they meet all the requirements, but it's a learn. I don't think anybody did bad. We spend a lot of money with consultants and staff and even council. Yes, let's make this changes. Actually, it was better than before, but after actually, this is new to our city and where we're building like this. Unfortunately, we have to see a few. Okay, this isn't, maybe we were thinking about something else. And so I think it's due process, the meaning it's timely to do it now, not after. We only got so many more, we can do this. My thought is not so much junk what we did, or all the design standards and all the work. It's like you said, review and revise. That's what we do with everything. We don't junk everything we ever review and revise. And I think that's timely based on the comments from this old council and some citizens. And as to, let's really look and see what we have. How can we improve it? Is there some really bad stuff that we need to take out? And the important thing that I would say we should really have work done is, I don't know how we can do something so different, like something European, in the middle of what we just already did. You have to have a transition. You can't just all of a sudden have some neighborhoods with this beautiful aesthetic-looking things and something different, which just look a little bit too high. I think it has to be transitioned from what we have done and kind of bridge and say, look at from a bridging standpoint to a higher level without the rest of them being made look odd, or all of a sudden say, oh, that must be the bad side of the city. We don't want to make any part of our city the bad side of the city because we just go so differently. I think there's got to be a transition to incorporate what has been done to saying, wow, what an improvement. Not so much, that's the bad one, we're going to go here. I think that would be a disservice to all the work we've done and people that have lived there and bought into it, and investors that have invested millions to do what we said. Let's get housing because of the PSRC designation and all these rules and federal laws or state laws about housing. And we all affordable housing. There's nothing, the more you put into it, the more expensive. It doesn't become affordable anymore. So we have to take it into account. So how do we make affordable housing with all this thrills and frills that we want and still be called affordable and be transitional from what we've already done? That's what I like to see out of this. I don't see this out of the picture, but I think that it takes time, as we all know. My goodness, this could be 4 years before we even can adopt maybe anything different. But by that time, we already have some buildings going up. So I'm not sure how much we're going. You have to. I think part of what we have to really think is how much more, and I know we all know how much more, kind of. By the time we actually adopt this and get it out and somebody builds in, people are going to have the right to build under some standard. And so I think we're going to see some of that happening. And how much is left after that? And all this time and money and everything else, what is the gain at the end? 4 blocks? 4 buildings? 3 buildings? 2 buildings? If that's the case, I think I would like to hear that as part of what is the budget, but also what are the leftovers with an estimate, the next 3 or 4 years, most likely this is going to be built. And we already know some of them. They got, like around here. So what's left? And then, hey, council, is this worth all this for 2 or 3 or 4 more buildings? I would have to really think about that. So that's my comments, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Anybody else want to comment? All right, I'm going to just chime in with my 10 cents. Part of my comments may be in the minority, but I'm okay with that. I do want to dovetail on what Councilmember Figueroa said. Part of the life of a city is always going back and re-examining itself to determine, are we keeping current, are we contemporary with what's going on in our environment? As you pointed out, Steve, in a very well presentation, that the times are changing, rules have changed, the rules of engagement that are set by the legislature have changed, and we as a city need to look at how does that impact our aesthetics, if you will, as we go further into this 21st century. As I watched your presentation, it really gave me an immediate deja vu that we went through almost this identical presentation several years back. And I guess one of the downsides, like Councilmember Figueroa points out many times, being on council long enough, you start to see things over again. But, back then we spent hundreds of thousands of dollars. We spent a lot of intellectual properties of bringing in subject matter experts. We brought in consultants. We had our city attorney at the time who was really super bright and enthusiastic, our city manager, our community. We did a lot of visioning to come up with the design standards that we currently have. And to hear a passing comment to me one day saying, well, that was all well and good, but our design standards are like Swiss cheese, was really disheartening to hear that. Because we really did put the brightest and best efforts forward. If we're going to go into another phase of looking at things, I really would be remiss that if we spend the capital of whatever that is to put in new design standards, that we don't sit here 20 years later after many of us are gone, but the younger folks are still here, saying, boy, you know, that was like a Swiss cheese, and, you know, our design standards are worthless. I am not in favor of throwing out everything that we have done and coming up with a whole new set of brand new design standards and changing the face of this community. I think that part of the ship has sailed. But what is important is to look at where we are currently and what do we need to change, modify, or tweak as we go forward, so that we don't have half our city looking one way and the other half looking in a different direction as we go forward. I'm not in favor of revamping our entire city codes or design standards. I am in favor of tweaking them to make them more contemporary with where we are. I'm not in favor of spending hundreds of thousands of dollars in paying for consultants to come in when I think we've got extremely competent people on our staff that can help guide that conversation, or if we need a consultant maybe to help guide that conversation a little bit, that would be great. But to come in and wipe the slate clean and say, let's start all over again, that's just a hard pill for me to swallow. It's hard for me to get there, but I think Councilmember Figueroa said it best, you know, is how do you build those transitions, you know, into our community so that we're staying current, we're staying competitive, we're staying contemporary, and we're delivering a good product to our community, that we're keeping it affordable, but yet, you know, it's something that builders can live with. You know, we spent so much time bending over backwards to accommodate our builders with the hopes that they would reciprocate. And, you know, to the previous comment that, you know, what we ended up with is an Alta Vista. I'll just come right out and say it, you know, or other facilities that are now undergoing some revisions. That's not what the city envisioned. That's not what the council envisioned. And so if we're going to go through this process, you know, we do it in earnest and we come up with something that, you know, the council can say, yeah, we really put our stamp of approval on it, and that we can be proud of that at the end of the day. Does that all make sense?
That's consistent with our thinking in terms of coming with you and you know, the design standards. There's actually a lot of good material in our design standards. I'm not talking. We don't have to wipe it out and throw it in the trash. It's got really some really good things that were developed 20 years ago, and they're still good today. But the designs that you're seeing, and like I said, the formulaic building that's going on across the country and up and down the Puget Sound, up and down the West Coast, meets our design standards. So what is unique, if council wants to go in a different direction and see something different before the next set of buildings gets built, we need to understand what your vision is so that we can embed those within the design standards. And not to, you know, and I'm not talking about bringing in European buildings. Yes, I've traveled to Europe and seen the great buildings of Europe. Something that's unique to this community that will serve the community in the long run. It'll be timeless. It'll feel very natural, but you'll know it when you see it. But the first thing is that we need to start that process. I don't have a list of things that we're going to do with the council to start off. We just wanted to know if you wanted us to work on it, we'll work on it and bring something back to you in a process, and we'll have another study session where we can talk about it.
You know, I think if we're going to do that, and the council can certainly correct me if I'm wrong, I think they, instead of them seeing a finished product and saying, is this what you want, maybe engaging the council along the way to get their input, and then build that model based on that input, I think might be of greater value.
We start with an outline, and we could build it together, because this is a team sport, not Kevin or I just determining this is what shall be done.
Yeah, no, I like that, and certainly would welcome council to weigh in on that one, but that's how I see it in my head. So I know Councilmember Figueroa would love to offer some commentary, and then followed by Councilmember Grassi and then Boykin. Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you for that last comment, because my suggestion is, because at the end of the day, the council, whoever's here, is going to approve those design changes, is have, if we go in this direction and go forward, is the first thing I'd like to have is that architect or that firm come and we do a retreat with the council members and they ask us, and they say, what is it that you see, just pure raw imagination and creativity? So, what's wrong that you see now? What is it, if you could change it, what would you change it? How would it look to you? Draw it out. Be elementary here, and then they could help us kind of. Well, you mean like this, or do you mean like that? And I think that they'll get different opinions, but at the end of the day, I think that I really believe they may get some kind of a trend. What we're all like saying, how the improvement can occur in the current buildings, because really that's what we have to compare to. I don't really want to compare to Bellevue or whatever. I just want to compare to what we have, because that brings that transition. How would you improve? How could you see these buildings could have been improved? We tell them, say, okay, how does this now, the first product, how does this look for the next batch? That I would like to see that, because that's the engagement I would understand to be.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, Councilwoman Grassi.
I didn't have anything, Mayor, but I will, since you gave me the floor, I'll just concur with what Mayor Fleming's comments were. I couldn't agree more with what he said. And again, and I like the idea of what Councilmember Figueroa just said of the consultant and architect. However, I would love to see a price tag for that creative session. So before all of those things, those numbers, that's really important to me. So thank you.
Okay, Councilman Boykin.
Thank you, Mayor. Again, thank you for the clarification. Absolutely on the same page about the expectation of there really being the need to recognize if we don't do anything different, we're going to get the same thing we have. And the buildings that we are perhaps not have been excited about, there's a real clear way in which they got in front of us. But what we're talking about with the possibility of doing something different is ensuring that the architect is centered in the conversation. And that's where it always starts if you really want to have long-term satisfaction. Because you don't have to be an architect professionally in order for a professional architect to provide you the vision that you see. And 99% of the things that we do in terms of engagement now don't start there. As a matter of fact, that's the last step we see. And what we're leaning into is what we're sure we don't want. And so the other thing that I would say it's a bit to that is that they're offering 99% of the things that's already out there in terms of this is what they've seen in terms of what's been built, and other municipalities have done similarly. So we find ourselves in a process, in my view, that if we're not clear about how we can break away from that, even if we're talking about incremental change, you can't get there if you're staying with the same design standards that limit you from being able to offer incremental impact, beauty or otherwise. So I like where we're going. I like the intentionality of we want to do something, first of all, that centers the council in a place that our deals come to the forefront, but just importantly, who's receiving them are receiving them very differently because we mean to have a different process. And whether we're the last to have a chance to live through those changes, I think subsequent council will get an opportunity to appreciate that they've got at least choices that they would not have had otherwise, unless we did this really important work right now. So thanks again for your remarks.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Yeah, thank you. I'm encouraged with the comments from all council members that we do need some changes within our design standards. I don't believe that we want to just wipe the slate clean. We have some. I would like to have a retreat and a consultant there to demonstrate what we've done really well, that the council likes, a visual cues to state, what is it that we're really looking for. We really may not know exactly until we see what that building looks like. If the building is going to fit well with those particular design standards, and if the council sees something that they like, the consultant can help us look at what is it that we really like about that building, to incorporate that into the design standards as well for consideration. Some of the basic principles of what does make a good design over time. There is a certain formula and standard that we could look at as well, and each section of our city should have a different character and approach, but with the quality components of beautification. And beautification isn't about aesthetically pleasing, it's about economic development, it's about people who really want to be there and create a warmth and an engaging community, people that want to walk along the streets. They don't want to walk along ugly buildings. If you can go to the other side of the equation, where who wants to walk next to a building that has boarded up windows? Nobody feels safe there. No one really gets a good inspirational walk at the end of the day. But if you walk around, I'll use my Bay Island where I live as an example. You walk along those streets and you see not only the beauty and the architecture, but the beauty of the landscaping and the sense that community has designed itself out with that sense of pride. And you come back from that walk refreshed, inspired, and you want to do that walk again and again and again throughout the seasons. And that is my vision for our entire city, and that I believe all of our citizens have a right to experience that within their own neighborhoods, and especially within the civic communities that we're building along the Regional Growth Center.
Thank you very much for those comments. I just want to end with this one comment, and that is, I still, in the back of my head, feel the sting, if you will, when we did this years ago. Somewhere in the corners of your office are $500,000 worth of architectural drawings that were presented to council, of which none of those ever came to fruition when we built out Town Center. So I just want to kind of steer, for me personally, I want to steer clear of going down the pathway of getting a lot of architectural engagement and drawings and what have you, and nothing ever comes of that. So that's my final comment. Well, we're down to 10 minutes, and I'd like to move to item number 13 right now, which is, and I don't want to end the design standard conversation. I think we've got some direction to go, and we'll take a look at that together.
Yes.
On that.
We're good.
Let's talk about food truck contracts with our city manager.
Yeah, so Marion is here online, and we've got, but I'm going to I'll just have her comment if needed, if there's a question from council. But as you know, Marion is our events coordinator, and she's planning, she's making commitments for these events, the vendors, the musicians, you name it, all the way through the summer events. And part of that is lining up the food trucks. In order to line up the food trucks, we need those contracts for those food trucks in the past have had guarantees to ensure that we can get those food truck vendors committed to our events, rather than have them wait to see what's available for them to, we don't want them to wait and see what else is available out there. We want them committed to our events here in March, this month, so that we know with certainty that the lineup of the quality food vendors, the food trucks that we've been able to secure over the past couple of years, that we can get those back, and then in addition, probably some others that we have yet to see. But we have a very high quality bar when it comes to food trucks, and in order to to secure those, we need contracts that have a guarantee that assures them that they'll make their minimums. However, I have to say, the food trucks that we've had last year, none of them except for one, two, did we have to pay anything. One was Starvin' Marvin, I believe, Marion, $454. They're not coming back. And the other one was Kona Ice. We were paying them $200 each time they showed. I don't believe they're coming back either. So we, or at least that's going to, the $200 guarantee is going to be eliminated. So the only reason to have the commitment in the contract, which was, we weren't able to clear up with the retreat, but I wanted to get all of you together so that Marion can move forward and get commitments from these food trucks now, through actual agreements and contracts that they sign and we countersign, so that we're assured that we'll have these 8, 10, 12 food trucks available to us all the way through, all the way through to Christmas. So that's the reason that we wanted to bring that thing forward. We don't want to pay the food trucks anything. In fact, the food trucks that Marianne has brought to our events are the kind of food trucks that people will travel to go see. So we actually get better attendance at our events, we believe. And those food trucks tend to do very well. And they far exceed their minimums, so we don't have to pay them anything. It's just that there's a guarantee in the contract, which is kind of an industry standard, at least for those that it's sort of a best practice. Yeah, we could probably still get some of those food trucks, but they're not going to commit to us unless we have a guarantee. So that's the message. We need the guarantee in the contracts, and hopefully council sees the benefit of that so that we can have those quality food trucks come to our events. And Marion can have the certainty going forward. She knows each event's going to have these lineups of food trucks, through Duck Days, Movie in the Park, Music on the Square, Oktoberfest, you name it. Okay. Marion, did I miss anything? Okay. Thanks.
No, perfectly said. Thank you, City Manager.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Steve. The reason why this is back before council is I know during the retreat it was one of the topics. The council was fairly vocal about how they wanted to proceed with this, and that was to have no charges this year in the contracts. So we wanted to put it before council for a conversation, and then we will, whatever that sentiment of the council is the direction we'll go. So comments, Councilmember Figueroa.
Thank you, Mayor. At the end of the day, and I was the one that, no, mainly because I don't believe that people should be, being paid anything. We have our stores. We don't need a guarantee. They don't need a guarantee. Well, they're not requesting a guarantee. But I understand about food trucks after talking to a few folks, and more so about being in this industry standard. That's what they expect. And most likely some of these never have even gotten paid anything because they sell enough. And based on the history that I'm hearing, $400 are not coming back. That's a good practice. If you have to pay out to these people, you might not want them back. $200, that's $600. Not much money is being paid out. Along how many years now? 4, 5, 6 years we've been doing this. Is kind of minuscule, and for all the things we have to do, I'm saying let just the staff deal with that and have the arbitration that they need to have to make sure they're not soliciting trucks or bringing in trucks that most likely will have that that kind of a payment. But I think that we got better things to talk about than about $400 or $600 that may or may not be paid out at all. And I think that staff has a good handle. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Grassi.
Thank you, Mayor Fleming. I I was a little, candidly, I was surprised that this was coming back because I thought we were that we were clear at the retreat about our conversation about food truck. I just want a point of clarification. I thought the last, on my, or at least one-on-one staff, we talked about $200 was guaranteed for Kona Ice for them to come, to attend, that we had to pay them $200.
Yes.
Okay.
And we're not doing that anymore.
Okay. I just want to be clear. I still am of the mind. I understand industry norms. I would submit to you and to the council that we haven't had to pay these vendors due to our great community that attends. I would love to submit that to these food trucks to say this is a great community, and in 6 years we haven't had to pay your minimums because our community has come out, and this is a good bet. University Place is a good clientele. I was going off of that $200. I just wanted to reiterate why I was passionate about this for our small businesses, because in our one-on-one we talked about $200, and it's been said, why are we caring about $200 or $400? But I did the math that if you just take $200 for our Market Square businesses, $200 means 33 ice cream cones to Bliss Ice Cream. 33 ice cream cones. That's 33 customers walking into their store. Five Guys, that's 13 cheeseburgers at Five Guys. 13 customers at Five Guys for $200. Mod Pizza, 15 pizzas. Salted Rim can sell 18 margaritas for $200. Happy Duo can sell 53 iced teas for $200. So we can say $200 is just $200 or $400, it's a minuscule amount, but to those businesses, 53 customers, 53 iced teas to Happy Duo is 53 customer interactions. That's 53 opportunities for these great wait staffs to have a tax-free tip that evening. These are opportunities. And so I just want to implore this council and our staff to just think about every dollar and what that means to our Market Square businesses, because you can see the numbers. If I were Bliss Ice Cream and I thought $200 to Kona Ice or 33 ice cream cones, I'd hope that we could pick 33 ice cream cones for a business that is here all year round and supports our community. So that's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman Boykin.
Thank you, Mayor. I couldn't agree more with the comments and the sentiment. The expectation, though, to clarify, thank you again, if I'm hearing you right, we will not be providing guarantees to people just simply to come. That's something that we are doing away with as of consensus, if not.
Mayor, point of order. I'm sorry to interrupt, but we're at 10 o'clock. And
Thank you very much.
Extend or
I'll entertain a motion. I hate to do this. We're right in the middle of this. For 10:10, can we wrap it up by then?
I can certainly wrap up mine.
I'll take a motion.
I move to extend the meeting to 10:10.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Thank you. Councilman Boykin.
Thank you, Mayor. And the final clarification, you are, though, advocating for a guarantee of some sort as part of industry standard. Can you just make that clear to me again why that's important, particularly for University Place, as we move into this expectation of providing excellent opportunities for our residents and our citizens?
Two reasons. One, to get their commitment now and not have to wait to see whether they'll commit to us this summer. Well, you know, if we're not able to guarantee them, we're able to get them to commit now if we sign a contract with that guarantee in there. Otherwise, they'll wait till summer. And we plan the events now, and we want to know the lineup of those food trucks at each of those events, starting with Duck Days and running all the way to Christmas. The second reason is if you don't have a guarantee, and for some reason they're having a slow day, or the guarantee also ensures that when they come to an event, they stay for the whole event. They just don't drive off. We've had situations like that in the past. So we have the contract with the guarantee, but the main reason for the guarantee is to get them committed now so that we have certainty when we're trying to plan these large events. We have so many moving parts, we need to make sure we have we have as much things fixed in place and known going forward on these events.
Commit early and certainty on our part, and then the expectation is that clarify for me, are they able to leave prior to our event being
Marion,
open?
I'll have Marion comment on this because this was a fact I didn't know about, but that's actually something that you cannot, without a contract, you cannot say that you must stay here for 4 hours.
That's correct. Before we were doing the guarantees, I actually had a vendor show up at the movie in the park, and people were not purchasing from them. They shuttered their serving window an hour after the event started and left because they were spending money on staffing the truck and running the truck without making any sales. So with this guarantee, we have a mandate in the contract that they sign that says they must stay through the event. They cannot leave before a designated time.
Thank you. Thank you. That's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
If I may have one question, and then Councilmember Cunningham. Steve, help me understand back to what Councilmember Grassi was saying. If the vendors have a track record of high success rate of revenue when they come to city events, why would they not want to sign a contract with the city that does not guarantee the $200? I mean, if they've done extremely well all these years, why would I mean, if I were a vendor and I knew that UP is where I'm going to make my money, I'd still sign a contract and come and make my money, even without the guarantee. So I'm trying to understand that one.
I had to learn this early on.
Hang on. My second question, which is going to be for Matt, is help me understand why this is not a gift of public funds.
That one's easy. So okay. I'll fill that one while Steve's working on his answer. Because you're working essentially you're providing the service of here is the food truck. You're contracting for their presence to be there for the event, just like you would for, I hate to cheapen a food truck this way, but akin to like the entertainer or the other services that are also present at an event. So you're still getting value in return. Now you can argue what's the quantum of that value, but you're still receiving a value in return as you're executing the entertainment function. I don't see a gift of public funds issue associated with it, that you're providing that guarantee in this context and situationally. I'm okay with that. At the end of the day, it's a question of should you do it, which is the question that I intervened before Steve could answer. So
it comes down to certainty. You're not, as Marion pointed out, what's to prevent them from driving off? You know, their first hour is slow. Hey, we're out of here. So we need them for 4 hours, not 1 hour. We need to know that they're going to be there with certainty, because we have carefully curated these events to ensure that the public, when they show up, sees the food vendors that we've advertised.
Okay, I'm going to ask a really hard question, and just give me the best answer you can. Fair enough? You know, have we already promised and guaranteed the food vendors the $200 guarantee, and now we're looking for the council to kind of come in the after part to support that?
I haven't signed. Marion, have we signed any
contracts? Have we verbally
yet?
or written?
We have verbally discussed and have verbal commitments with food truck vendors for the year. Oktoberfest and tree lighting are not yet full, but we're in conversations with the premium food trucks for those type of events. Those are specialized, so we definitely want to secure them now for later in the year before someone else does.
No.
So the conversation is almost moot if we're saying we've already made verbal commitments?
We're doing the same practice we've done in the past, but we haven't yet executed these contracts. So if tonight you say you don't want to move forward with this, we won't do that.
Okay. Councilmember Wood. I'm sorry, I'm going to preempt you. Councilmember Cunningham, you've been waiting patiently.
Yep. So my first thought is a food truck is a restaurant. They just can drive the food truck instead of driving the restaurant. So, I mean, when you look at it, from that perspective, it's no different than staff, product, time, mobility, access, all the things. So, I mean, I think we have to pause and look at it from that perspective. Fiscal responsibility, I mean, if we saved on this, it's not necessarily like a large sum that's going to make such a big impact. Marion, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember you mentioning, and I think Kevin did as well, of the revenue that those businesses make around here during those days is pretty significant. I think that you guys had mentioned, I might be wrong, but I thought that you guys had mentioned that.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yes,
the other thing I'm going to mention is at the council retreat, we discussed, briefly, I think, because we had to move along, but difficult to work with is what we've been deemed in a lot of areas, and this is no different. So if we're going to revisit some aspects of how to be a partner, then we have to visit all aspects of how to be a partner. And a guarantee is no different than you're just being overstaffed for a restaurant that you ended up not needing the staff. You send them home for the day. That's still money spent. And then on our end, just because we're doing well, I think that, do you need me to stop so you can?
Yeah, I'm going to do this one last time, and if you don't wrap it up by 10:15, we're done, okay? So I'll take another motion to extend to 10:15.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, thank you. And I will support that. If we're not done by 10:15, so mark your comments, okay? If we're not done by 10:15, we're done. And this will have to be delayed to another council meeting. So you have the floor, Councilmember Cunningham.
Yeah, so I just think that we need to be thoughtful about how we move along in this process. I think that if we're going to turn over a new leaf with partnership and how we partner effectively in all different aspects, I think we need to look at that. We can't guarantee that the crowds are going to be full each time. Duck Days is usually busy, but we can't guarantee that. We can't guarantee that it's going to be a rained out tree lighting and people don't come. So, I mean, if we're expecting the food trucks to feel good and honorable about partnering with us because, hey, we traditionally do very well, there's at no moment that we can guarantee that our events will have a great turnout. I mean, it's hit and miss, just like anything else. So I think that, while we can't guarantee a sold-out crowd in every event that we have, then we also can't expect them to guarantee that, that they're going to make their meal count every single event. So I think we got to be thoughtful about that. And then what does that mean to us when we hear the fact that, we're hard to work with or difficult to partner with? How does that look in every aspect? Are we looking at every perspective of that? And I think that that's important, because if we're going to do it, do it. And if we're not going to do it, then, we might as well not do it. But we got to think about that. That's all I have, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilmember Wood.
Thank you, Mayor. So, short answer, I have no problem with continuing to offer the guarantee, mostly because in the past we paid out very little. I was not comfortable with the $200 we're paying Kona Ice to show up every time. I'm glad to hear that's going away. Yep. So just having the one random or two random events where somebody just doesn't pay out, I think we can manage that as a city, because basically we're buying a reduction in risk, is the way I look at it. We want to have a prime event, and the risk of having somebody drive off early or not show up or get a better offer or do something else, I think that's what we're guaranteeing. We're not even buying it if they make their meal count. So, and at the dollar value we're talking about, which was just a few $100 over the last several years, you're right. I'm not going to dispute what you're saying there. I do think, and I'm glad the city's already decided to move the food trucks so we're not right in front of our existing businesses. I absolutely believe we should partner with our local businesses here to find a way to help them maximize their opportunity as well. But I've got no problem with offering the guarantee. Thank you.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem.
I'll chime in here. I heard all the comments, and they're very value added. I would go along with the guarantee so we have the assurity of the quality of vendors, the expectations of the quality of vendors we've had in the past for our residents to come to our events. Sometimes it's not really the event; it's the food truck that's there. They are a big draw. And to have that consistency and that expectation would be important to have. If we don't have the guarantee, then we may not have the nicer looking food trucks, for lack of a better term. You know, beautification, right? We got to have pretty food trucks and great food there as well. And also a little caveat so that the guarantee may be able to get us those novel food trucks that are hesitant to try out our event and could work well with some of our themed events like Movie in the Park to come out and just to test the waters and see how they do, and if they want to continue the partnership with our city. And concurring with Councilmember Cunningham's, you know, we don't want to appear hard to work with anymore. We want to feel a little more inviting and forgiving, and the business give and take to make the experience of the food trucks grow. That's my comments. Thank you.
Thank you. And that's a good way to end the evening. I think we have consensus, not unanimous, but consensus, you know, to move forward.
Thank you.
Okay. Seeing that there is no further business before council, I will call this meeting adjourned.
All right, just 45
Never
minutes
been so
up.
happy to hear that gavel in my life.
Wow. Yeah, they're going to break it out.